I just pretend. I pretend like I don't know that it started. I've always done that. Always wanted to give a little bit of a delay. Good evening. Hello. How are you? I see that there's one person here. And good evening, Preacher Bear. Good evening. Well, I what can I do? I think I'm gonna go ahead and Ian Bear Pig, welcome. Nice to see you here. Windy evening. Um, it's just cold and rainy, which after getting snow, I wasn't expecting to see rain again, but because we have in a couple of days, we have a day that's going to be 13 degrees. Well, that's the low. Um, but a high of 29 in November is pretty intense from what I'm used to. I don't even know if it got it. I mean, it got down to 29 a couple of times in Florida, but I think 22 was the lowest we saw in 2 years in Florida. 22 will be a high temperature here in a little bit. Anyway, 80 miles. That's it's a little bit too fast for a nice kite flying. So I started talking, and it appears that now my children, um, 29 is going to be the high. You said real temperature like a joke. You mean in Celsius? I mean, what negative 1.7. You probably couldn't even hear me because it probably switched over. But uh, negative 1.7 Celsius is what 29 Fahrenheit is. But yeah, a little curious if it switched over when I picked up my phone. If you could no longer hear me, it's a fresh day in Cornwall. Negative 1.7. I got you. All right, well, go ahead and grab a drink. I'm gonna make sure everything gets situated. Invite a couple of people to the chat tonight, and we'll see where it goes from there. Oh, there we are. Hello. Hello.
Hey, are you live?
Yes, I am, but you're coming through my. Give me just a second.
Hey, you're all right, dude. I'm working on the car.
That's a great angle. That is a great.
Oh, here's my greasy hands.
Hold on. And you
This
can
stream already.
you can hear me okay?
Yeah,
I
Devin, I'm
can.
actually on stream right now.
You said you're doing a stream?
Yeah, I'm doing a stream about the publishing company. I didn't realize you were streaming today. I forgot it was Friday.
It's okay.
I did too. Hey, Nate. How
Hey,
you
what?
doing, man?
You like this Halo? It's like a to Christ, or one of the lesser
Yeah.
states. Do you ever say
Would you allow your woman to get in the screen? Jeez.
they're allowed to talk about politics? By the way,
What's up?
how big of a deal is it? How big of a deal is it that Ilhan? I was thinking about this the other day. Ilhan Omar is a Muslim woman in politics.
Oh, she would be murdered. She'd be murdered in her own
I
country, her
Are
own
you trying
homeland.
to yeah, are you trying to state that though in regards to it being um not nearly as ominous to American safety as some people make it out to be?
no, I think it's hilarious. I think it's a Jewish joke, and I think like they're like fuck the Muslims this way, but they're just succeeding on cucking the Christians more. You know what I mean?
Huh.
Anyways, I've got a bunch of people staring at me. Uh,
No, it's all good. I don't want to interrupt you. I just invited. Um,
I
it
appreciate that.
if you get if you do get time in a little bit, and if I'm still going, you know that I watched the entire Anna Voltis. I think your interview was really good.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate it. Hard. Yeah, keep up the good work. Maybe like remind me because I'm not next time. That way I can think like be ready for it.
it's all good.
Sweet. Catch you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all been making fun of her being in politics as a mockery by the Jews for months. There's something I'm not. There's something just not clicking in my brain about.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna turn off my video, and then you're good. All right, there you go.
Or I'll switch
Yeah,
then.
I don't need to be on screen.
Okay,
I'm good.
it's all good.
So the thing with her being Muslim, can you hear me okay or no?
I can hear you fine, and let me just double check. I think yeah, everybody else can hear you too.
All right, cool. So I think the main point that he was making, and it's the same thing that I've thought about many times, is the fact that according to her own religion, she would not be able to hold the position that she holds, even
Hmm.
though she's still claiming to be part of that religion.
Yeah. Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
So she's
Yeah. So she violates her
she's
own religion while
actively
claiming to
being
advocate for it.
okay. She's an active hypocrite, but she's also a leftist, and leftists don't care about
Yeah.
hypocrisy. Leftists care about winning,
Well, she's a politician, so we're not shocked by hypocrisy from a politician, regardless, right?
regardless of left or right. Absolutely. Good point. Good point.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh.
So there are no men. There's
So,
no.
any topics?
So there's no men. There's no Islamic men in our government. Is that
Uh,
possible?
I know I'm pretty sure there's a Sikh. I feel like there's one guy who's a Sikh, but I could be wrong on that. And others would argue that Obama was, but I think they're just ridiculous.
Oh, you Obama?
Neither Christian nor Muslim.
Um,
I think he was neither Christian or Muslim.
no, he was any man.
If I had to bet, I would say atheist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What'd you say?
he was an any man. He was a politician that just
Yeah,
did like Bill Clinton and many of the other prior presidents that just went along with the party. Um, by party, I just mean like, oh yeah, I'm happy with you. I'm happy with you. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. Blah blah blah.
right.
One of those
Plus,
good without God kind of
he was
guys.
anti-gay marriage. He was anti-gay marriage in 2008, and then he was pro-gay marriage in 2012.
Yeah.
It was like, I highly doubt you had that much drastic of a change in 4 years, but maybe.
So Preacher Bear said there's not enough victim points for Islamic men. Interesting. Well, that scale might be,
Oh, that's pretty accurate.
yeah, the scale might
That's
not be
pretty
tipping,
accurate because
or might be tipping. I mean,
nothing is more patriarchal. Nothing is more patriarchal than a Muslim man, though, because like you'll have conservatives, especially conservative Christians, that are opposed to women in authority for sure,
what
but
party?
nothing close to what Muslims do.
Yeah, what party would an
Huh?
Islamic person, if a Muslim man had to choose Republican or Democrat, I feel like he would be Republican.
I mean, his values would align more Republican, but I don't know.
But his
That's okay.
policies,
So
he would want a lot of different policies changed that would look a lot more like a Democrat, but I don't think that he would be a Democrat just
so
because I
yeah.
don't know.
So he would be a social conservative, but he would be left wing because he would believe in bigger government and more governmental control.
More
Because
government. It's funny
the
because
further
Ian
right you
Bearpig,
go, the less governmental control you want.
that's
You know what I
funny.
mean?
Ian Bearpig said that a Muslim would have to run as a libertarian or something. But
No, no, because Muslims don't believe in liberty at all.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
at all. They believe in the state. They'd be a statist for sure.
Now, yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know too much about Islam. I
I
really don't.
love this stuff.
Well, I'm just thinking like in their religion, are they 100% on this? They're pretty much on the sovereignty of God, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all about theocracy, and
But in their
like
own
one of the
life, they don't believe in free will, really. They,
no,
yeah,
nope.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all a lot of sovereignty, and they yeah, that's the reason why anytime, and you're gonna get me on a thing, but why they reject the West trying to liberate them so much is because they don't believe in liberty. Most of them, they believe in theocracy. They believe in um, the state
Hmm.
dictating behavior,
Yeah, yeah.
which is somewhat right wing. They're right wing statists, but anyway, it's complicated.
I got you. Well, I watched that man, I just forgot the name. Not Rockefeller. Um the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Rothschild. You're
I
welcome.
just forgot the name. So I watched that Rothschild movie from 34, and because Black Pill did a little thing on it, he did really great. You don't have to watch the whole movie, but um, Red Shield, yeah, Red Shield, Rothschild. Wait a second, is that what Rothschild means? Is Red Shield?
It should. Hmm. Roth.
Because wouldn't that be
You would think it would mean
interesting?
child of red. You would think it would mean child of red, but I don't know. I'm not sure about
Because
that.
their family emblem was a red shield. Preacher Bear says yes. Um,
Well, he's smarter than me, so I'll
um,
allow it.
all that nice. Um, yeah, yeah. Obama was raised by Muslims and said, yeah, I remember the call to prayer comment being a beautiful sound. Obama. Um, I'm just looking through the chat right now.
Yeah,
Um,
but I don't actually think he was anything. I think you're
yeah, yeah,
right. He was just an opportunist, and he would align with whatever would advance him the most. So he was a politician's politician.
yeah, yeah, and probably the best public speaker since Abraham Lincoln. I mean, there have
Yeah.
been a couple other
Well,
presidents that knew how to have a good speech. I mean, JFK did pretty good with his speeches, but
it depends what you like, though, because actually, like that was one of the things I loved about Reagan because Reagan's
well,
speeches were good, but
okay,
they felt natural. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Whereas Obama's never feel like an actual human talks that way.
okay. So what I
Same thing with
mean,
JFK. It's like that's not a real person talking. That's
yeah,
a
so what I
politician.
mean is hypnotic. I'm just
Oh,
talking
for
about
sure.
I'm just talking about great effect.
Oh, they're effective,
If
100%.
yeah, yeah, that's all I mean by that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, his brother is a weird situation. Um,
I can't read the chat. What's
it
up?
it's all good. Charles said, I think Jeremy is on point with that one. He just wanted to be appealing to everyone. And then Ian Bearpig said Malik Obama called Barack slick as a pile of cow feces. I'm just kidding. Um, I just I like to use the most absurd ways to avoid saying cuss words because
God.
I think it's hilarious. Um, you guys, um, I don't know. But anyway, and then Preacher Bear said he was educated as a non-nation Muslim for the funding of his education. So at some point he had to admit or claim as a Muzzy.
I'm
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. And then Ian said that Obama's brother is hilarious. Yeah. Well, I've I've heard other stuff, and I'm just like whatever. But anyway, the Rothschild stuff. Listen, I'm really excited about my little theory I developed. I shared it on the video that stated what's really going on or what's really going on these days or something. What did I name it? The real answer about what's going on, I think, is what I named it. But anyway, we got into it last week when Charles was over here briefly. Um, but then we got to change subjects because things get exciting and stuff. You get all tangential. But but the conclusion that I'm really drawing on here is that this whole what's going on in the world has a lot to do with jealousy, and I think that almost every movement, especially in recent years, can be traced back to jealousy. So so let me give you an example. Um, the um, the flower piece, the 1960s and 70s hippie movement. You might say, who were they jealous of? Um, but I think that the Jesus movement that was taking place at the same time,
Ugh.
in a lot of ways, you've got. I think that the 60s and the 70s is kind of where the beginning of I can be good without God kind of started at that time,
Yeah.
and that's when I'm.
That's why I would say there's the two factors.
Go
You're
ahead.
right that it's selfishness or jealousy, but the secondary thing would be pride. I mean, pride's the
Well,
root of every sin, just about.
when I'm
But
talking about jealousy, I'm referring really to were you there for my episode where I call it episode? It feels really awkward. Where I said those people. I was reading a article from Sanhedrin.org, and they referred to Jesus as that person in quotes, and I said,
oh,
"Oh,
nice.
okay. Well, I'm going to call them those people then." Were you there for that?
I don't think so.
That's fine. Well, now you know if I say those people, I'm referring to those people.
Oh,
because
those
they,
aren't the people I refer to as those people.
well, when
I'm joking. You're fine. Go ahead.
what's that?
I'm joking. I'm
Gotcha.
making a joke. You're good. Go ahead.
But anyway, when I'm talking about jealousy, I'm talking about those people being jealous of Christians having an exclusive pathway to salvation through Jesus. Those people are extremely angry and jealous of the fact that that's the way that it is. They don't
Oh, for sure.
realize that they're jealous because their beliefs prevent them from recognizing that jealousy through discrediting through their own oral traditions, Talmud, and all these different things, discrediting that Jesus was, or attempting to discredit, I might want to say, attempting to discredit that Jesus was the Messiah and that Jesus was God. Um, but when you consider that he is God and that he is the only way to salvation, as he said, then you have a hard time seeing the behavior of those people um, from the time of Jesus all the way till now as anything but jealous behavior through just so much of everything that they've done has been like the little brother in a family, the little brother that is always fighting with his big brother, which I know it should be the other round because they're older, so to speak, but it's kind of the reverse because of um, the promise. I mean,
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
almost like a better example uh, of that is Jacob, because even though he's the younger brother, he had the birthright,
Yeah, yeah, there.
and
That's a good
so
metaphor.
Esau, the jealous of Esau, or you probably pronounce it the other way, but the jealousy of Esau would be very similar to the jealousy of the Jews toward the Christians.
I say Esau.
Do you? I know other people say Asa, or
Oh,
they say that's the like Hebrew way or whatever. I don't know,
mm,
and I wouldn't know. So
now you got me curious, but
I
no,
just
I
pronounce
mean
it
I
the
know
way I
that
grew up saying it.
Jacob is Yaakov. I mean, I'm all
Yeah.
good with that, but
Oh yeah, because there's no hard J's, but yeah.
yeah, but as far as Esau, I think it's a I think it's a dot underneath an aleph, but I can't remember. And if it's a dot underneath an aleph, then that would be a E sound, or uh, not a I, but a I. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Not really that
All right.
important.
All right. Hey, you
Um,
can continue with what you're saying. I gotta mute myself real quick. I gotta wash my hands.
that's fine. All right. Preacher Bear says the devil is jealous. Um, jealous of the life that God has for us. All those that side with the devil share in that hate of the love of Christians, of the light. Anyway, sorry, man. And humans in general, the word speak for himself. Work speak for itself. You have it with population control, social manipulation, attacks on Christians. Um, True, we were just reading that in Luke 19 last night, and by we, Charles is talking about him and his family, I'm sure. Um, Parable of the talents, the people thought him to be cruel and indignant and didn't want him to rule over them, so they hated him. Yeah. Um, they have envy because the cloud of the Lord never descended on Israel after the sacking of Solomon's temple. Only at the baptism of Jesus did it return. Yeah, that's what I thought with the E sound. Um, I trimmed my mustache and ah, lots of squirrely hairs. But anyway, um, because Charles is not green screened in this time, maybe I could edit him in later, right? Uh, Whatever. Um, um, it looks like we have a little bit less viewers, but you guys are here, and that's it's all good. Um, so Jeremy had asked what the topic was for tonight. Um, oh well, Charles, you didn't see him because he's not green screened in right now, but he said that he did it back, and apparently he's leaving. Um, which I don't know if that means that he's hitting the road or what. Um, oh, Preacher Bear's leaving. I see. Yeah. Good night. It's late. Have a good night. Sleep well.
Preacher,
Preacher Bear's going to bed. Bed. Um. So
well, the whole Esau thing, I got corrected on it the other day by somebody with more education than me. So I was just like, well, you can say it that way, and I will try not to say it in front of you because I'm not going to change how I say
yeah, Preacher
it.
Bear was arguing that point, and I think rightfully so. But I can tell you, Blue Letter. Give me a moment, and I will look it up. But basically, um, the thing that's been on my mind recently is is just the meaning of all the conspiracy theories, the meaning of all of the doom and gloom, the meaning of all the black pilled, red pilled, whatever pill, the meaning, what conclusions we draw, and and what we can do about it, practically speaking. Um, and Okay, so technically, technically, it's not an aleph, it's an ayin with a it's actually more so Esau. Uh
Esau, that's what it was. Esau.
Esau. And you could say
Yep,
a
that's what they said.
you could say Esav
A
or
Esau, I almost think they said Esau.
well that's the thing, it's a va, so it's a it's a accent with the double dot underneath the ayin, which would be I mean it could be an E or an A. Not an A like the letter A, but A as in the sound A. And then it's a sin and the letter A or the vowel A, and then a vav, and the vav could be a U or a V. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, technically it's not an E sound because of that accent. But it's fine. Nobody says nobody says Kohelet, when they're talking about the book of Ecclesiastes. But that's not, Ecclesiastes isn't the title of that book. Um, but we're, it kind of goes back to one of my arguments. I don't think I said this on stream, but one of the biggest reasons that I don't say the N word is because I'm an American, and I say black, and I say brown, and I say red, and I say yellow. I do not say, uh, rojo, because I'm not a Mexican. I say red. Um, so anyway, I know that doesn't sound connected at all, but my point is, as English speakers, if we pronounce something one way, because of our language norms, um, if in English the transliterated letters are pronounced a certain way, um, so be it. It's the language that we speak, and there's not magic in the letters or the words, in my opinion. Um, anyway, what kind of carb stuff are you working on the van?
I hear you. I'm listening.
Are you
Yeah, I just gave it a tune-up, so I'm just running a test drive real quick to make sure, and it sounds way better.
Oh, good.
So it's actually running a lot better. That same van.
Oh,
So,
good. Good.
woo.
Yeah, if
All
God
right.
doesn't provide a new van, then he'll fix the one you've got.
Yep.
Um,
So,
yeah, Ian Bearpig asked me if I was talking about necrophiliac. Um, yeah, I don't talk about those sickos,
I can't believe you just said that word.
you know? It was in the chat, so.
Yeah. No, I my thing with words is that words do have power, and I get the argument that people make where they say if you say the word, it takes away the power. But I'm I will just say that I'm a hypocrite on the issue because I would say I would never tell a comedian, for instance, that he can't say the word, and I would never tell an actor who's in a movie where the word is historically accurate or important to the story that he shouldn't say that word or whatever. But me in my normal life, I would have a hard time justifying the need for me to use that word, so that's why I wouldn't use it, right? And we could pretend like it doesn't carry meaning, but along with what you were saying, we live in America and we've basically agreed that this word is terrible
Well, see,
and
that's not my point.
oppressive in
I think
nature
that
or
it's a
whatever.
stupid word.
It's a stupid word. Why is it a stupid word?
I think it's retarded to use a word like that because it's not in our language. It's just slang.
Oh,
It's just slang from old a blending of a couple of different languages. It's just old school
yeah,
slang. And I think that
but
I
but
mean,
American English does that quite a bit though. I mean,
I
modern
know.
English right now, we've yeah, ain't is in the dictionary. You know what I mean? It's stupid thing. Y'all is in the dictionary
Yeah, and
now
I mean, I might say those words, but I don't think that they're intelligent. I don't think that they're
for sure.
the best word you could use. It's not proper. That's the it's literally not proper. Not
Right.
figuratively. It's I mean, you could make the argument it's figuratively not proper, but I'm going to also say it's literally not proper speaking. If you're going to be proper, you're going to use the English words for colors. And by the way, I do take issue when somebody says a person of non-color, referring to somebody with my skin tone, and I say if you're going to uh, get a box of 128 crown. Like I don't pronounce that word Crayon. I don't pronounce that word correctly.
Oh, crayon.
It's a
Gotcha. Crayon.
it's a problem. It's a long
I was really
standing
confused for a second.
long standing problem of me. Anyway, so if you got one of those boxes of those waxy colored uh, cylinders, um,
Crayons.
you are not crayons. I hate that word. I hate that pronunciation. I think that's retarded. But anyway, you would never pick not if you're a discerning person with good color vision, you're not going to pick the white crayon um, to color somebody of that to make it look like me. If you're a photorealistic artist, you're not going to use that color all by itself
No,
at the very least.
no.
So to call someone such as of my skin tone a person of non-color, I think is foolish to say the least. But anyway, um, I mean, colors shouldn't offend people. If the color of your skin offends you, then that's a problem that you need to take up between you and your maker. That's kind of the way that I look at it. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot going on with all that topic. Um, Charles has to run some errands. Um, Ian Bearpick said if a black dude stole my bike or got my daughter pregnant and decided to bail on her, what would I do? I would say that that dude's probably gonna burn in hell, and he needs to repent. Um, but no, I actually don't. I don't. I wasn't raised in such a way to call people derogatory names. Just because, I mean, my parents certainly called each other names. I was raised in that environment, but I wasn't raised in such an environment where in an environment where if you got offended, you called that person some derogatory name. Um, Oddly enough, even growing up in a relatively lower socioeconomic status, I was raised to use descriptive, adjective heavy, poetic language to speak through and complain through situations, whether it be some horrible customer service situation or somebody has done something wrong or rude or whatever. I was raised um, to be very poetic and flowery with your language, but um, not just resorting to a handful of 6 or 7 words that you might be able to call somebody just because that's what everybody else does. I was definitely raised a little bit different. Um, so maybe I have a little bit of an advantage in that regard. I don't have any knee jerk reaction to call anybody certain names. Um, but I don't know. That's just what I think.
It's fun.
There's 5 people here right now, so I really would appreciate if everybody said hello. Um,
I'm, I'm gonna.
just saying.
I'm I'm suspended on Twitter right now, but I'll send a notification on Instagram.
What'd you do this time? No, seriously though.
So
What they get you for?
I use the R word. So
Republican?
yeah, no. So
I'm
all
just
right.
kidding.
So this
What
whole thing
was it?
with
Retarded? You used retard?
retarded. Yeah. I said
Uh,
retarded. So I was responding to a quote unquote journalist who he actually posted the video. This is what I don't get. Why did they post the video they're lying about?
the
Like,
Kentucky one?
no.
Uh,
This was a completely different one. This had to do with al Baghdadi. Um, you know who that is, right? The
n-
terrorist that we just took out.
no, was that the ISIS guy?
Yeah, he
I
was the
didn't
head of
know his name.
ISIS,
I didn't know his name.
al Baghdadi. So anyway,
He's a fall man anyway. Go ahead.
yeah, it's whatever. So, well, he was an austere scholar, according to the Washington Post. But anyway,
Okay.
did you follow that or no?
No, not at all.
Oh, bro. Okay, so real quick on that, the austere scholar thing. Ian Bearpig knows what's up. Oh, the Muslim scholar and political activist. So yeah, I'm in the house now, so I can read the chat.
All right,
So
cool,
anyway,
cool.
The Washington Post reported that al-Baghdadi, austere scholar, dies at 48 or whatever, instead of world's most notorious terrorist taken out by the United States or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
They made it out like he was some hero or whatever. So anyway, there was a video. So Trump, when he did a little press conference whenever we took the guy out, and Trump was very Trumpian in this press conference. And I get the motivation, and anyone who knows anything about Muslim culture would get the motivation behind him degrading the guy and speaking very poorly about the guy in the press conference. He described him as a dog. He said that he died like a coward. He said he was whimpering and crying when we got him. Right now, here's the thing: none of that might be true. Like all of that might be a lie.
Yeah.
However, the point is to embarrass a terrorist and to basically let people know, like, listen, when we take you out, you come against us. When we take you out, this is how you're going to be remembered.
We're going to
This is
disgrace
the
you.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Well, in
yeah.
an
What they
honor
call it,
culture, that's a good countermeasure against an
it's
honor
not
culture.
it's not halal, right? It's what's the word when they're disgraced? There's a word
Oh, yeah, I don't.
starts
Yeah.
with an H, like Hamar or halal or something. I can't remember what it is, but anyway, if anybody in the chat knows, you can type it. But and that's a haram, haram.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's a haram whenever they're disgraced and they die in disgrace, and it literally means they can't get to paradise. It's the reason
Oh,
why
okay.
the it's the reason why the conspiracy went around that they American soldiers soaked their bullets in bacon grease whenever they would go fight against Muslims
Hmm.
because they would not get to paradise if they had bacon grease inside of them. So that was the whole thing. Was it wasn't true, but just the rumor being out there held weight, you know. So anyway, this guy, they asked the general who was giving a press conference um, that he said Donald Trump said the guy was whimpering and crying. So they asked the general, "Is this true, or was Trump accurate?"
Yeah, yeah.
And the general said, "I haven't spoke with the unit members. Trump said that he has." So he says, "That'd be a terrible waste of bacon grease." Ian Bearpig says. So anyway,
I'm just shaking my head. The either way thing, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the reason I shake my head is because I don't care if you are the Dalai Lama or
yeah,
Epstein or
the Pope
Jimmy Savile, yeah, or the Pope for that matter, or
Mother Teresa.
what's her, Beverly Clinton, what's her name, Hillary Clinton. I don't care who you are. I want you to
Yep.
be saved. I don't necessarily. I'm not. If I saw you in heaven, it would be a joy, not because of the way you are now, but because of how great our God is. It it's like, well, I don't want to see Hillary Clinton in heaven. I mean, come on. You better not, or you obviously don't understand how great God is if you're turned off by the idea of somebody like Hillary Clinton being in heaven. Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
He
somebody
said he
ought
was
to be.
joking.
They
He
ought to
wasn't being
be.
serious.
Huh?
He
What?
says he wasn't being serious. He was just joking.
I know. I know. I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. I know you. I know. I know. Ian, it's all good. Um.
That's the other thing, though. I took heat for that on Twitter the other day because I said something to I can't remember if I talked to you about this or not. I had the nerve to say that it's possible that Kanye is saved. I think we did talk about that, and these
Yeah,
people
we
were like,
talked a little
"No,
bit about Kanye
they're
last
like,
week.
there's some people that God won't save or whatever," and I'm like, and they named a list of people, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, who in the world are you to declare who God can save?" Like, I'm not one of these people that goes, only God can judge me, because obviously it's our responsibility to hold each other accountable as believers and things like that. And we can see good fruit or bad fruit, but I'm not going to assume to know somebody's soul, and I'm definitely not going to assume to fully know the nature of God and declare that there's no chance somebody could be saved. Like, no chance they have an opportunity to be saved. You know what I mean?
I.
Anyway,
It's an interesting topic to think about the people, the state of the soul of someone that doesn't want somebody to be saved. I mean, I guess it could just be as simple as bad theology. It could be, but yeah, I'm not trying to write on you, Ian. I just took it as an opportunity to clarify, um, just clarify my beliefs on that. I always I that topic is kind of a one that I think is overlooked by, in a lot of ways, the church. Um, Not all churches, but definitely mainstream Christians definitely don't seem to are like, oh yeah, he deserved it. You did too. He deserved to go
Yeah,
to hell. So did you. I mean, what? What?
I
You
know.
read the Bible, didn't? Oh, you didn't. Okay, well that's the problem. That's the problem. But yeah, man, I don't know anything about Instagram at all, at all.
So, all right. So, real quick, um, so the general said, "I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet," and that was his answer. The journalist posts the video and then quotes him and says, "What he really meant was, Trump is lying, but I don't want to make him look bad."
Hmm.
So, so I was like, okay, we all know what he said. This is the actual quote. And if you think anything differently, you're retarded. Oh my gosh, that's 7 days right there.
All right, so
7 days in the Twitter gulag.
I'm putting this out there for any nerds in my chat, or not forget, I mean, chat, future views, whatever. If you understand, I don't think I don't think my wife is back yet. This happens about 3 to 5 times a day, where I get a TCP port scanning attack. It's the same network threat blocked message, and I've read about it, and I don't understand what it is, why it happens, and if I really need to do anything about it at all. Um, so I'm just putting it there so that you can see, and you also see that I have ESET internet security. So anyway, it's weird. I know it's random, but it just popped up, and it's like, what in the world? So you're talking. I mean, is anybody even surprised anymore when somebody is called out for blatantly misquoting and putting words in the mouth? And I mean, the dude, what's the crazy dude that was at that did all that stupid stuff with the Ukrainian phone call and Trump? The dude that
Schiff,
huh?
Schiff, Adam Schiff.
Yeah, that Trump said should be hung as a traitor. I mean, I don't I don't
Well,
really
I mean,
just
he's lied in front of Congress multiple times. So,
I,
dude's been awful.
he's almost right about traitor status, but I feel like there's probably a fine line between what constitutes actual being a traitor to your nation. I don't think it just saying just trying to frame your president. I don't know if that's enough. I think it has to be more framing your nation, which in that regard, anybody that ever participated in starting fake false flags and stuff to start wars, actually, those are people that could probably be tried as traitors, right? What was it, the Gulf of
Yeah,
Tonkin
I'm
and all that kind of stuff, right?
yeah, for sure. I'm unlike a lot of people these days. I'm hesitant to use the word treason or treasonous or traitor
Oh yeah,
because
Trump just likes
what you're saying is
buzzwords,
that
but
person. Well, they all do. They all use
hmm
buzzwords. The journalists do, and the reason why is because there's a penalty for treason, and it's death.
yeah,
That is the penalty. So you're declaring that Adam Schiff deserves to be put to death, right? When you say he's treasonous, and it's like, okay, easy, guys. Like maybe for something else, but not for that. Like, I don't know, man. We
yeah.
use these words like they carry no weight, you know?
Well,
Yeah, I agree with
I I'm in chapter
Ian. He's
six.
saying,
I'm in chapter 6 of Devin Stack's book, Day of the Rope, and
gotcha.
that book He'll probably never hear me say this, but I'm pretty certain that it is a lot of authors write from their soul, so to speak, and they reveal the secret desires of their heart uh, in the characters that they write about. And I think that based on what I've seen, I don't know Devin. I know this Devin. I don't know that Devin. Um, but based on what I've heard in podcast, getting to know him through his videos and everything that he displays there, and then reading his book, I think that there's some very interesting desires that he's leaking through his characters. It's pretty interesting. But anyway, the topic that I was when you were muted, I was just like the topic of tonight is kind of um, what we can do pragmatically in life. How do we live day to day? And it's funny because it brings me back to the title of an awesome video series by Long Sock Man, um, Francis Schaeffer. How now shall we live? How now shall we live? I think is the name of it,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously just an amazing um, educational video series on history and Christian history and everything. Um, yeah, for me, I just think that we should focus on avoiding complacency. It's about what we can pursue, and it's also about what we can't. I mean, we shouldn't focus on the negative. Yeah, I tend to not want to. I don't really want to say, oh, we should avoid this and we should avoid that and we should avoid this, because that just doesn't sound right. I would prefer to say and choose to say all the things that we should pursue that consequently cause us to avoid. Um, I think that a thing to pursue that would help us avoid complacency, for instance, would be goal setting and hope. But where's our hope? I think that in a lot of ways, nominal Christians and general society still, for some reason, has some type of hope that they can somehow accomplish the American dream, a stable life with a stable income. One day we'll be out of debt. One day this, one day that, and that's what we're fighting for. And I think that those are actually traps. And I'm not saying to pursue those things like debt and all the bad things, but I just think that in a lot of ways the American dream is not an inescapable trap, but a trap that continues to um, deceive folks, even the ones that know that it's not real. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to click through a bunch of and listen at the same time.
Click. I didn't hear part of that. Click through a bunch
But
of what?
I'm clicking through a bunch of stuff because I'm trying to post that we're on
Oh, I
at
got
the
you. I
same
got you.
time.
Um, Social Justice Warriors Always Double Down is a book that I heard about. I bet that's a fascinating read, Ian. Um, rules for liberals, rules for that's not what it's called. Such and such rules for. Do you know the name of that? The title of that thing? So and so's rules for. Is it rules for liberals? Is that the name, or is it
Rules for radicals?
rules for radicals? That's another one that I only read the
That's it.
like bullet points of. Um, It's the second of the SJW books by Vox. Oh, yeah, Vox Day. That's right. SJWs always lie, and the first it was really good. Gotcha. Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that it creates this false divide that makes you think, oh well, leftist or social justice warriors always lie, and then other people don't lie as much. Or I mean, sin. All the false dichotomies and false binaries and all these different things. There's so many distractions out there. Even the thing about flat Earth, round Earth. I think it's another. It's not necessarily a technical false dichotomy, but I think it's a practical false dichotomy in regards to a way to divide people over a non-issue. And I think that's kind of what I mean by there's so many false binaries and ways to divide people. And then, ironically, in a lot of other ways, there are so many things in our world that are drawing us together in a very Babylon, um, Tower of Babel kind of way. Ways that we're collaborating globally more than ever, pretty much more than ever since the time of the Tower of Babel. And so it's kind of there's a lot of dissonance there between those two concepts. But talk about a multifaceted attack, or an attack on many fronts, so to speak. Let's see. Um, you could think of it that way, but Vox just tries to point out how social justice warrior culture operates and how you can effectively shut them down in an argument. Fox knows we are all sinners. I'm sure of that. Yeah, maybe. He's. I don't. I just don't understand that guy. Something is off in a Jesse Lee Peterson kind of way, and I don't know what it is. Um, I really don't. I don't like. There's something that gives me the creeps about unauthorized TV and all the different channels that he has a part of that, and just that whole conglomeration of stuff, and what Vox has going on. He seems like a little bit of a Dexter. Not the TV show. I never watched that one. I'm talking about the little boy, Dexter's Laboratory Dexter. Um, he seems like a little bit of a mad scientist, and and that could be a good thing, or that could be a bad thing. It could involve
He's definitely he's
Kool-Aid
definitely
someday,
in an
or
echo chamber.
what's that?
Said he's definitely in an echo chamber.
He is. Yeah, yeah. It's somehow you move across to the other side of the planet, Italy. It's pretty far away, and
Yeah.
except for this, globe. If it is a globe, which I'm 99.9% sure it is, but if it is very unusual just how big the Pacific Ocean is. Um, that you can actually get a view of the Earth that's like 85% water because of how big the Pacific Ocean is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really fascinating. And I mean, to some degree, it supports the concept of a prior Pangea. Um, I just think that people's um, measurements of time are just horribly off. Um, but anyway, um,
So Ian said that echo chambers are just another way of saying keeping a small circle of close friends. I disagree with that because, first of all, my my close circle of friends don't all agree with me. For one,
yeah,
we're like minded in vision, but not like-minded in everything. And I
Do you have
like
some
that. I like to be
Anglican, not
challenged on
Anglican? Do
stuff,
you have
you
some Arminian friends?
know. I do, for sure
Good.
I
Yeah.
do. Yep. I mean, and I think it's healthy to be. I have
Absolutely.
some Catholic friends. I have
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
unbelieving friends. My unbelieving friends are um,
Help
obviously
me with
not as
that one.
close.
That one makes me, because my I had this conversation with my mom actually, when I was trying to argue why I felt the way that I felt about abortion, why I felt the way I felt about homosexuality and sodomy and all that. Um, and what I mean by the way I feel about it is it's a sin and it shouldn't be shied away from as being called a sin. Um,
Hmm.
and my mom was like, "Well, you shouldn't label somebody a murderer just because they got an abortion." I'm like, "Well, no, it's not about labeling them. It's just about making sure that you're not shy about saying what something is. You don't have to sugarcoat it. When there's a problem, there's a problem. Don't say that a problem isn't a problem. Basically, it was my point. And she was like, you can't put labels on people because that's not loving. Blah blah blah. That wouldn't be the love of Jesus." And then she asked me this question through this conversation that we were having. It was a decent conversation, more productive than some. And she said, "Would you be friends with a homosexual?" Which is an interesting question because I have been um, friends with, but that was only actually because they weren't interested in pursuing that lifestyle. Um, but that being said, um, no, I wouldn't. If somebody wanted to pursue that lifestyle, I have no interest in spending time with them, in getting to know them. And then how can you share the gospel with them if you're not going to be willing to develop a relationship with them? I'll share the gospel with them however God finds it fit for me to. Um, but actually befriending, hey, let's go hang out. My answer is no. Um, but so anyway, you mentioned having unbelieving friends, uh, which in a
Yeah,
in some ways is no different than having a homosexual friend or any other person that
well, that's the whole
doesn't.
thing.
um,
They're definitely in a lifestyle of sin because they're an enemy of God at the time. So
exactly. So
it
for instance,
applies for sure.
Devin Stack, he's an agnostic. So far, I've heard from his podcast at a couple of his live streams. He's mentioned being agnostic. For instance, I wouldn't. I want. I would like to talk to him. I'd love to do an interview or something like that. I'm nowhere near the level of clout necessary for something like that. But with that being said, I would definitely talk to him. I'd definitely talk to I would talk to Jesse Lee Peterson. I'd talk to Joel Osteen. I'd love to do an
Yeah,
interview with Joel Osteen. Um,
yeah,
I think it'd be really interesting for a nobody to talk to somebody that thinks that they're definitely a somebody. But anyway, that being said, I wouldn't want to like. I would have an agenda. I would have a motive. If I was like, come over for dinner, want to get to know you. Really, I just want you to get to know me and who I'm all about. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting. I can understand some of the pragmatics behind trying to. I just can't understand how you can be friends with somebody and be like, I accept you the way that you are, because I can't accept somebody that is I can't accept somebody the way that they are when they're not complete, and that's because of what I believe. Anyway, maybe you got more to say about that.
I do. Let me address Ian real quick. And is
Yeah,
it Ian or Ian? I never know. But anyway,
I would say
uh,
Ian. I've always said Ian.
yeah, I usually say Ian. All right. Anyway, uh, So here, real quick, he was mentioned that this echo chambers is typically a term people use to just discredit somebody, and he's right about that. And that's not actually how it was. Ian, good job, thank you. I wasn't trying to use that as like a necessarily derogatory, like discredit him box entirely, because I'm opposed to that too. I get bothered by people that use the phrase conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory as if it's not true
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
conspiracy
yeah,
theory. It's like, no, by definition, conspiracy theories can be true. There have been conspiracies, and whenever they got investigated, there was a theory of how it came about
yeah.
that developed into, a case, and so on and so forth. You guys get the point. So I really hate it when people do that. But I wasn't saying echo chamber like, oh, he's an idiot, he's an echo chamber, or dismissing him. But what I am saying is there's a weakness when you, and this is why I worry about Owen sometimes in this nature, when you just ban people from your life and you get
Ugh.
people out of your life that disagree with you, even if they're wrong about some things, there's value in their disagreement because they
Hold
can
on.
point things out
Hold,
in you. Go
what
ahead.
about what about gammas?
Well, you're getting into a whole thing that I don't even
Agree
look
with?
into. You guys look into this whole hierarchy stuff, and
Okay,
and
but
I, I don't even.
don't think of it as hierarchy. Think of it more so because I actually haven't read Vox's big thing or watched his Voxiversity on it. I think of it just I'm thinking of it in the most simplistic way.
I got you.
The character flaw of
Right.
I am only being um obstinate against you to try to I don't want to learn. I just want to make a fool of you
Mhm.
because I'm insecure about
Yeah.
myself. That what I mean, I feel like that's never productive. Like if somebody
Right. No, I agree.
and
So I
now
call
on
those
the other
people.
hand, Owen definitely bans quality
Oh no,
people
he'll ban
constantly.
anybody. But although I agreed with him on that one guy from that one channel he banned that he can't ever seem to get back in,
What do you
gospel something. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
I was with him on that. I was like, good call, Owen. Anyway,
When he banned
the
me. Yeah.
so yes. So anyway, whether it was on purpose, I have no idea. Anyway,
It's always
so
on
I call
purpose.
those people toxic people, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be funny with puns or whatever. But toxic people are people they live by Schadenfreude, right? They live to enjoy the downfall of someone else. They, as Ian just said, they like to troll people.
Yeah.
Um, so, and
Typically those types of people everybody is a creature of God, made in God's image, and
sure,
does deserve a chance. Oftentimes those types of people are very insecure about something in themselves, and they can't help but just lash out against anybody that is different than themselves. So for instance, if somebody says something about flat earth and they're like, they just all they can do is just call names and just make fun
right,
of them and stuff like that instead of asking questions, for instance.
yeah,
That's somebody that's very more than likely very insecure about their own beliefs. um, that's why I can have conversations with somebody that wholeheartedly believes something contrary to what I believe, is because I'm not insecure about what I believe. That you're not going to be now.
right,
There's complete categories of learnedness that I'm really ignorant on. For instance, history. I feel like a fifth grader when it comes to history. I have a good overarching general knowledge of historical events, and there are certain niches of history that I know quite a bit about. But there's folks like Nate, for instance, and some of the people that he ends up talking with that know historical events inside and outside, um, just completely different. Everybody has their niche that they care about, and there's obviously things that we're passionate about that are different than others. But um, anyway,
Yeah. So anyway, we were talking about being friends with an unbeliever. So
unbeliever, yes.
yeah. So as far as it goes, I do not allow toxic people to stay in my life because I view that as falling under the category of pearls before swine. I I believe that if I present you the gospel and you vehemently reject it, and now you're literally just trying to like antagonize me about my faith and things like that, I have no duty to try and be friendly with you, right? But there are people who are truly seeking, but they're not there yet, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And those are typically the people that I remain friends with.
Yes, yeah,
You know,
I
they'll
feel
ask
that.
you questions, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
And
People,
sometimes you have a different common bond, whether it be like, I have friends that are into the
music or
same sports teams or
yeah,
music
for sure.
or other things. And so you strike up a relationship because of those things, regardless of how you encountered the person.
Yeah,
You have a relationship that can only go so deep because
true.
they're an enemy of God.
You
And
can't necessarily
as long as,
confide and all those different things.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm not even saying you can't rely on them. Like I've heard people say, well, I don't rely on my unbelieving friends. Like, man, I've had some unbelieving friends that if I was in a bad situation, they'd be one of the first ones I'd call. Then they're actually the ones where I say it's the most tragic that they're not a believer because they're such a good dude.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, I had a coworker when I worked in the prison system, and he was a former Marine sniper.
Hmm.
Um, he grew up in the Catholic Church, wanted nothing to do with God,
Hmm.
and I mean, treated his wife well, was a good father to his children, was just super dependable, just always doing good things, helping out people if they were needy, like one of the first people you would call, not a
Yeah,
believer.
yeah,
And he's one of those that, dude, I have cried literal tears over the fact that this
yeah.
guy will not accept Christ.
Well,
And
it's like
so
those are the
that
sorts
makes
of
it
people you want to
difficult.
be like, bro. Why do you think you want to do good things? Where do you think that
Hmm.
comes from? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, yeah. How could I not agree with that? That makes perfect sense. Um, there, I've met a lot of oppositional people. The guy that I used to work with, that came on the stream with us. I guess it was just one time, but he wasn't exactly oppositional. He just held his beliefs. He was. I can't help but say that he had a sense of pride about his beliefs, which I guess isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, it's kind of looked at as embarrassing if you believe something, but don't, you're not, I don't know. But
No,
it
I'm
was,
with you. That's actually one of my pet peeves is when people say, well, I believe this is true, but I've studied it, I've come to this conclusion, but I could be easily moved off of it. Like, no, no, that's crazy. If you actually have looked into something
yeah,
and come to
yeah.
a conclusion, it's fine to have an open dialogue about it. And it's also fine to say, yeah, I'm seriously not moving on this dude. Like, I've
It's
looked into this,
because it's funny, I had him on and I had a couple of false premises about unbelievers in general that 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 I was able to learn about having him on because I had asked him a couple of questions like uh is there anything that you want to know uh or any curiosities you have about Christians or Christianity. And the fact of the matter is, there was nothing, because everything that he knew, all of his understanding was occupied with assumptions about what he thought he knew about Christians, defined his understanding of Christianity, and he literally didn't have any curiosity about Christianity or God or anything, because he already thought he had a pretty good basic understanding of what it consisted of. Um, and it's kind of interesting, and I think that Charles, aka Breath of Fresh Bear, with his little sign off that he does, keep on seeking the truth and you'll find it. Um, we need to remain curious. We need to keep on asking questions. We also need to know where truth comes from. And I think, back to the complacency thing. Complacency is a dangerous thing in our life, big time. Ian said, a lot of my friends don't believe in God, and almost all my friends think the earth is round. I'm sorry, man. I'm just messing around. But they don't let that stuff get in the way of us being in a band together or whatever. Um, I find it like a form of mental exercise, and I mean it in the most literal sense when I say exercise, to try to stretch my imagination to understand how something else uh, could be plausible, such as the concept of flat Earth, despite what I understand to be proof that I've talked about from time to time. When I start thinking and hearing the other ways of looking at it, um, I find that the same answer exists on both sides. So let me give you an example, just for kicks and giggles. Um, so how can we be on a planet that spends however many thousands of miles an hour and not fling off in outer space? Well, that's the way God made it. Hey, how could the Earth be flat and everything just doesn't fly off, or fall off the edge? Because that's the way God made it. Hey, how could everything be flat, and how could the Earth be this geocentric model? If How can you explain the lunar eclipse and solar eclipse if that's the case? The answer is because that's the way God made it. So the common denominator with all of these things, well, how come the Earth rotates around the sun, but the Earth is also God's footstool? Because that's the way God made it. Because that's the way God made it is the scapegoat. It's the common denominator of all explanations for whatever you want to believe. Uh, the God answer, that actually shouldn't be disturbing to anybody, but it should actually bring us closer together in realizing that one way or another, somebody's wrong. And it's okay if it's you. It's okay if it's me. It is.
Yeah,
Because
on that topic for sure.
we can actually agree. Yeah, there are some things that are non-negotiables. Um, but on the things that aren't, the concept that that's the way that God made it is a common denominator between two groups that would probably look at each other as on completely opposite sides. It They're actually concluding, most, not all, but most are concluding in the same way, that that's just the way God made it. and they're both recognizing the sovereignty and beauty of God's creation, chill out, yo. Chill out. The fact that everybody within the context of what I'm talking about, the fact that most folks are concluding on the same thing should actually be create a measure of peace, is all I'm saying. If you have proof it is round, I would love to hear it because I can't seem to prove round Earth no matter how hard I try. Um, Take a piece of sheet metal, go to the Home Depot. You don't have to pay any money at all. You just go to the Home Depot, take a piece of sheet metal, uh, and uh, and and hold it flat, and look up at the light, and then look down at the sheet, and look at how the light reflects evenly across the surface of the metal, and then like aluminum, something really skinny that's easy to bend, piece of sheet metal, and then bend it, and then look at how you see the coloration of the sheet metal, and then you see a band of light reflecting. It's simple geometry, but you get to demonstrate it for your own self. Then go to a lake or an ocean, any nice big body of water, and by big I mean just a just a small lake. I mean just I don't know, 30% or 30 degrees of your field of vision. It doesn't have to be that big of a body of water. And then go there during sunrise or sunset and look at the water as the sun reflects off of the water. Uh, is this ironclad perfect proof of round Earth? No, but as you look at the reflection of the sun off of the water, it is excellent evidence of the fact that the water is not perfectly flat. Uh, it conforms. We know that water conforms the shape of its container, and the only way to explain that the water isn't reflecting a solid sheet of reflection, a solid across the entire circular lake or whatever it is that you're looking at, especially an ocean. The larger, the better, but whatever. It's not reflecting a perfect, consistent, flat reflection across the entire surface of the water. It's only reflecting a band of light in the same way that a piece of sheet metal that's bent does. That is my easiest, simplest kindergarten role play example of um, of showing yourself there's something going on here. There is curvature, and it is provable on the ground. You don't have to be hundreds of thousands of miles up in the air or space or whatever in order to be able to observe that. And you
Yeah,
don't
this
need
space is
special
real.
trigonometry. You don't need any. That requires no math. That requires no anything that's subversive or distortable. This is, I guess, what you call it is physical science, right? That's, I mean, it's complete observable, like 100% observation. Nothing about it requires equations or anything. So, anyway,
Okay,
um,
there's at least two people watching who have
mine
not
says four.
commented in the chat.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
it says four,
exactly.
but I'm saying there's two that haven't commented.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
irritates me. They know it irritates me. They show up
You're
on
doing it on purpose.
they show up on a regular basis. They appreciate me calling them names such as lazy or rude or inappropriate, and they're like, "I'm just working and I can't." I don't know who you are. It could be my buddy in Florida. It also could be a secret person that just all these months, because I've always had one person.
Ooh, well, we just went up one more.
I've always had one person that has like a consistent at least one person that's consistently a secret viewer that has never revealed themselves. And then again, maybe they have, and it's just that somebody else has taken their place as the secret viewer. Um, they Whoever it is takes great pleasure in remaining anonymous, and that's their prerogative. I mean, that's part of the beauty of uh, of how this works. If I created my own platform, I would make sure that it was completely transparent, and I don't know why. It's not important, but it's just annoying. Um, breath of breath of fresh air is still here. He might be. He might be. Um,
That's possible.
Interesting. I've never heard about that
But
way
we
of
got one more, so
proving it's round. That's one of the examples I came up with when I was commuting back and forth and driving over a bridge every day and during the sunrise and stuff. When I was down in Florida and I was going over the bay, I just saw the way that the light reflected off the water, and I was like, "Wait a second, this has been a fun topic, but this is very blatant." I'm about to sneeze. I'm like holding back a sneeze right now, so that's why I'm like squinting. And so there's these Iowa is full of corn, if you didn't know. Like
yeah.
90% of Iowa is cornfields.
The other 10% is hogs.
Probably, maybe eight, yeah, 9.5%, and then 1/2 of 1% is houses, but and then barns. But anyway, when corn is harvested, it releases tons of dust, but there's these pink colored debris type things that are on the corn. They call them ear wigs. Just like I always grew up calling that nasty bug an earwig.
Hmm.
But apparently there's this pink growth on corn that they call an earwig, and it causes a lot of people sinus problems. And it's only for like 2 or 3 weeks when the season changes and when they're harvesting. And it's done a number on me. Um, I've been well, I've only done it once, but saline. I do the saline thing in my nose, and I I try not to do much of anything because I like to kind of suffer through um, whatever's going on so that I'm aware of what's going on. I don't like to numb myself to pain. I like to be very well aware of what's going on. So, but
Yeah, I'm very similar to a fault. I will
yeah,
not take pain meds and all that stuff.
yeah. I mean, forget pain meds. It's like, why would I want to stop knowing? Like, I need to know that it hurts.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I do.
something.
I will take anti-inflammatories. That's what I will take.
If it's health related, like
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
Well, a lot of times the the pain is being caused by the fact that you have inflammation. So if you reduce the
True,
inflammation,
true.
the pain goes away, and you can actually figure out well where the inflammation come from.
Exactly. But anyway, saline is no big deal. I mean, it's like baking soda and water. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know who the fifth is. Hey, that's no way to describe an overweight lady.
I'm assuming because I said something about hogs. I don't know.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Um, so
I was full of them.
so who's the fourth though? You're acting like I mean, if there's
Well, me, I'm assuming it's me because I'm on.
no Preacher Bear left, there's Ian, there's you. Even if Charles is the third, then
There's still one.
yeah, exactly. And then there was a fifth here that showed up for a minute, and then they were like, "Oh, this is boring," I guess.
This is dull.
But then there's this at least one, if not two people that are um yeah, they're just what do they call it? Creeping. I've said that before. Um,
Oh, you might be in the count too, bro.
no, because trust me, I have streamed to a zero more than once. I have streamed to a zero crowd,
Gotcha.
and it just says zero viewers the entire stream. It's not like it's catching up
Stop,
or,
stop bragging, man. Stop bragging.
is that bragging?
No, it's
Is that
not.
a humble brag?
Humble brag. Listen,
Listen,
I've
I
provided my knowledge and wisdom for zero people.
I'm usually alone.
I'm
Um,
not about the fame.
yeah. No,
Oh my gosh.
YouTube and well, there's Charles. Charles is back. Um, yeah, the YouTube and Patreon thing have been interesting because I'm trying to figure out how to get more done because I do my work and I can do a little bit of multitasking while I'm working, but then I get off at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And my main motivation when I get off of work is how can I spend time with my children? How can I be present with my wife? Is there anything that she needs from me? Chores and stuff like that. And and then there's other things like, well, gosh, like for instance, my kombucha is on day 14 now. I didn't even taste it. I tasted it on day 10, and it was still pretty sweet, but I think it's ready now. I mean, it's a lot colder in my house here than it was in Florida, so it's taking a lot longer. But then I have all these wood projects that I need to work on, and then oh, Hillary Clinton is here. Thanks, Ian.
Hey, just in case Ian is correct, I do not have any information that could lead to the arrest or conviction of Hillary Clinton. Just want to get that on the record.
Okay, yeah.
I have no information.
I don't either. No, she's probably a really nice lady. All I
Seems
know is
seems
this.
seems lovely.
All I know is this about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's Secret Service agent in 2008 or 2009, one of those years, purchased a what there's stupid things called. Um, is this? It was like a what is this stupid thing called at Starbucks? Um, toffee, the toffee something bar, the toffee. Anyway, Starbucks had this thing that was like a blondie brownie. It had chocolate and caramel like chunks in it. And toffee almond bar, that's what it was called. And I don't even know if it even had almond in it, but it was called the toffee almond bar. And Hillary Clinton, the Secret Service dude, and his partner, Secret Service partner, two Secret Service guys came into the Gervais Street, Columbia, South Carolina, um, Starbucks in order to get some snacks for Hillary. Why do I know this? Because we asked who they were and why they had the coily things hanging from their ear. And then we heard that Hillary was actually hanging out at Liberty Bar, the bar that was across the street from uh, from the coffee shop that I worked at. So I never got to see her, but I know that she likes toffee almond bar. That's the only firsthand knowledge I have about that woman. Everything else could literally be a lie. I mean, you guys want to say that the earth might be flat, but the fact of the matter is, Hillary Clinton could be a saint. You don't really know. And that got me a donation.
Ian Bearpig donated $1. No one here knows anything about the
What?
Clintons or their private
You donated
business.
$1.
We're all
No one here
chill
knows anything.
and believe in the moon landing and that Epstein tragically passed away while the prison guard was on a poop break.
All right, I gotta mute your stream again. Oh, that was
Yeah,
funny.
we could hear it at kind of a second time from you.
Sorry.
No, it's
I had to
okay.
hear the British accent.
It was pretty fun, and that was a great message, Ian. Appreciate that. And in this case, we only have $994 to go to meet my goal. I don't know if you guys can see that down there in the bottom right part of the screen. Maybe there's 6 viewers now, and nobody's saying hi, but maybe one of the 3 secret viewers, just has a um, disavow any. No, you will not disavow the fact that she loves toffee almond bar.
I know nothing.
um, I don't even know who the Clintons. Uh, um,
I
so
also disavow Ian's white power symbol he just put in the chat too.
I thought that was a backwards 666, but you know that's what they say is
All right, listen. Anybody who's watching right now that has not commented in the chat yet, you give us a topic and we will talk about it.
yes,
You get to decide.
but only somebody that
Say
hasn't
something.
chatted yet.
Yeah. No, Ian. Nobody cares.
What are you talking about? Nobody cares.
I was picking on Ian. Like if he wanted to pick a topic, we wouldn't. We refused to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
it.
There's 3 of you. Just type anything. I mean, you're not on a T9 like Nokia phone watching this where you just can't type. I mean, if you're listening to this stream hypothetically and your phone is in your pocket and you have headphones in and you're working in an environment where if you were to even touch your phone you'd be like immediately reprimanded by your boss. You probably shouldn't be listening in the first place because that's just heavily distracting. And I know from experience, um, when you're in an environment where you're not supposed to interact with your phone at all and you're listening to something like this, because I used to try and listen to Owen, and I would always be like, "Oh, I've got to say something in the chat. Oh, this guy's this guy's killing me right now." Um,
Yes. Oh, to the point that he got me to spend $5 a month. I laugh at myself. That's how pathetic it was. I spent $5 a month to chat.
oh yeah, the members only chat. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Of course, it was only a month or whatever, but
well, yeah, I mean, I did it. Not, I
I
mean,
know.
I guess in a lot of ways we're in a lot the same.
I am
Um,
not Chuck. I am the Clinton bodyguard who took Chuck out. I want to talk about those delicious almond bars.
well, they they were delicious. I ate quite a few of them. Seriously though, 3 people here. Pick a random topic, or we could do the truth or dare. We could do a truth or dare.
Oh, Lord.
You get to choose. I'm not even saying truth. I'm not even saying dare. You get to choose.
Oh, man.
But it
All
has
right.
to be one of the secret people. It has to be one of the secret people. There's Bigby.
Oh, there you go.
And he's literally the most he's the scariest person to have just opened up into the chat, by the way.
Truth or dare.
No, very few people would cause it the level of fear. Um, if there was anybody that would cause any level of scariness, um, Baby Lupo is a pretty intimidating fellow.
Bigby's a secret person.
I'm not too surprised, but
Yeah.
but he is kind of intimidating because he can get really personal. But hey, do it. I've been watching your videos, man. Big B's, and they're good. He really knows how to make a good video. I like it.
Yeah. Yep.
Very very professional quality, I think. But
Yeah, if I was that good, I would do more.
I know, right? Well,
I'm
that's part of the
terrible, so
thing,
I
though.
don't do them.
That's why I live stream is because I don't have the discipline or patience for like video editing and stuff, and
Yeah.
um, you know, I would love to do some of the um so like I've been watching Kit Boga a lot. This YouTuber, I'm gonna put his name in the chat so y'all can read it. So I've been watching that guy on Twitch, and he has 14,000 live stream viewers on a regular basis. He will be he like today he lost his voice. So today's stream on Twitch, he only had 1,400 to 2,500 viewers, and he was like straight up just playing Minecraft and like some Auto Nuts, some kind of weird video game, computer game called Auto Nuts, and he played Call of Duty Modern Warfare. But he was like just goofing off. He normally calls scammers and and waste scammers' time, like Indian scammers and stuff. And
Oh, gotcha.
so I really love Kit Boga's channel. He's awesome. But like, think about that. That's more viewers than Steven Crowder. That's more viewers than Owen. I mean, that's more viewers. That's almost like I've watched the White House live stuff, and usually the White House has 20,000 live viewers on YouTube, right? For the fact that this dude sitting in his little studio in his garage or whatever, that's just calling scammers in India, has 14,000 people, three
Yeah, that's
quarters
crazy.
of what the president of the United States has for a press conference. Dude,
Yeah.
it's insane. And I mean, he's funny, but it's wild. It's kind of crazy. But I mean, Dr. Disrespect constantly has, like, Twitch has a completely different live streaming situation going on compared to YouTube. uh, YouTube has nothing on what Twitch is doing, because Dr. Disrespect will have 50,000 people. You think about the president having 20,000 on YouTube. Dr. Disrespect has 54, 65,000 people watching him live. And he's just a crazy 30-year-old with a mustache
I
and
don't even know who that is.
a fake wig. He plays PUBG and Call of Duty and stuff, and he's good,
Gotcha.
but he's not even Shroud good. He's like 95% as good as Shroud.
Yeah,
95.
I know none of this stuff. I don't do any
Uh,
games.
well, I don't either. I don't either really, but I have watched some of these people just because they're kind of entertaining. Um, oh, your wife watches Kit Boga? That's cool. Yeah, Kit Boga is entertaining though. Like, he does all these different voice. He has a Roland mic, um, and he does these voice changing things. He makes himself sound like an old lady, makes himself sound like an old man, like a country guy, like a country girl, like a valley girl, and he does all these different voice changing things and poses as different American uh, victims for these scammers, and wastes just epic amount of time, like an hour and a half. Just, I mean, it's what he literally does as his job, is streams his goofiness in wasting scammers' time. And he has so many subscribers on Twitch, he's making a good living. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got to be making like $500 to $1,000 a day. Just, he's making lots of money, and I'm sure there's a little bit of cost related, but you know, not much. You know,
All right. Bigby said he wanted truth or dare. So you need to pick.
I always go with truth because I love the truth.
Me too. So Bigby, he chooses truth.
So I just don't want people to be like, I dare to pick your nose on stream, and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. I just don't like dares because they might be um, something that I'm morally opposed to, and I ain't about that. But truth, I'm not opposed to the truth. Yeah, Kit Boga's good stuff. Atomic Shrimp is pretty funny too, but Atomic Shrimp has a completely different style. And Atomic Shrimp does mostly email, um, and he edits all of his videos. Atomic Shrimp's got a pretty cool channel, like that guy. And then the Hotel Hoax is another scam baiter. That's what they call themselves, scam baiters. They bait the anyway.
Yeah.
Um, Hotel Hoax likes to cuss a little bit, and he's obviously a young guy, but he's definitely got a niche because he creates his own cartoons um, with the dialogue. So he's putting in the work because even though his cartoon stuff is really simple, it's still a lot of work. Kit Boga mostly just does live streaming, which, as I well know, is much easier. It requires a little bit better acting, but you know, I'm not exactly a actor. I just am who I am. For both of you, what was your most embarrassing moment that is not safe for work? Well, it's a double negative, so I'm a little
Yeesh.
confused. Um, what was your most embarrassing moment? I'm guessing that you're saying what's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened at work that wasn't even good, like shouldn't have ever happened. Um, the things that for me at work that were not good for work that was very embarrassing. I never got like caught, but I played Half-Life and Need for Speed 2 Underground and StarCraft, all while on duty as a security guard um, for my first job. I was an overnight security guard, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I also took naps and showers. So I would like do a tour around the campus and then I'd drop off at my dorm and like just chill for a while before I knew I had to meet my next benchmark instead of still patrolling. Um, so I could justify it a whole lot, but it was pretty embarrassing the lack of integrity I had um, on a Christian campus as a security guard. So I don't know if that counts as a really embarrassing moment though, but more so embarrassing behavior. Oh, I also did one of those donuts in the patrol car that had like 390,000 miles on it and a police interceptor. It was one of the Crown Vics, like an old um, put what are those called? The trooper. It was an old trooper car. So they had the police interceptor. The thing had massive acceleration. So in the middle of the night, way far off from the dorms where like adults would be and where professors lived, this other section of the campus, there was a gravel area, and I would do donuts just because I could get away with it, so to speak. That was pretty embarrassing, but I never got caught either, so I don't know if that qualifies. Um, so I don't. That's training, not for the job I had. That was abuse of power. Um, I never got found out with the showering or sleeping or playing video games because it was kind of an accepted practice amongst the people that worked on night shift. Um, but it still wasn't good. It was bad integrity. Um, I am a bad man, but we're sinners, guys. Um, we are sinners, and I did repent though. I had a moment where I was like, listen, I can never do this again because bad things could happen, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want for my life. Um, I'm rating Ian's comment right now.
Yeah, I just read it. See,
those are kind of
It's
pathetic examples, but
well, it's rough because I don't get embarrassed.
I got you.
Um, so that makes it difficult because I've had things happen to me that would probably embarrass other people, but they don't really embarrass me.
Okay.
Um, but I would say that um, there's two things where I'm ashamed of them to this day. Um, and one probably most people wouldn't consider a big deal, but I do because I grew up in a house where we didn't use any bad language,
Yeah, yeah.
and um, my mother, I was, see, I had three kids already, so I was probably 26 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
My mother walked in the front door of my house while I was on the phone with a bill collector, dropping the F bomb on him.
Oh.
Yeah. And I hear my door shut and turn around and realize she's just heard me curse, and she had never heard me curse
Hmm.
in my entire life. And I was like, I felt like garbage.
So
And she was actually pretty cool about it. She was like, you know, what was that? I was like, oh, is this bill collector? She was like, I understand.
my
But
my actual two most embarrassing moments, one was also in college. Um, and that was when I blew up the sink with a firecracker. So like we had bought all these fireworks and stuff, and I had bought this big old pack of M85s or M95s or whatever they're called. Not not the old school 1970s style big ones, but you know the way toned down ones. Um, but anyway, I had them, and we had thrown them into a lake. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so awesome!" I would film it, and you could see the boom, boom, like it was this low pitch, and you could watch the light ball explode underwater. And I was like, "Man, that is just so cool!" And then the water would shoot up a little bit. I was like, "Man, that is just awesome!" So I was like, you know, bored, and I was like, "Oh, let me try that in the sink." And the very first time I filled it up, I threw one in, and exactly where the water was, it was like a concussion bomb, and it blew out the sink. It was a porcelain sink apparently, and it literally right where the water line was exactly where the porcelain sheared off. It was almost like in the water it created this just anyway, it was amazing. I was in disbelief that it happened, and I was incredibly embarrassed. And I didn't tell the RD, the residential director. I actually somehow managed to keep it a secret and told maintenance. And I was like, listen, this was literally one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. It was like I did something that was really stupid, and I'm very sorry. I was very close to tears, but I didn't. I like hyper intellectualize things, so I have trouble with emotions because I over intellectualize. So I knew that if I did cry, it could come across as insincere. At least that's the way I was rationalizing it. So I didn't, but I was emotional about it. Um, it's a war inside of an INTJ um, mind, because and some other, personality is a very dynamic thing. It's not just a set of letters. But anyway, I was in this conflict of emotion and um, embarrassment and all these different things. And the guy was very understanding, and he was like, "You understand that, like, the school could press charges against you, and you could probably get kicked off campus, like, and not be a student anymore, all these different things." Um, and I was just like pretty overwhelmed. Excuse me. But anyway, come to find out, uh, he kind of related. He first of all congratulated me on integrity and honesty and all that good stuff, and said that he would take care of it. And he kind of acted like he had been through some stuff himself, related and all that. But anyway, that was a near miss, big time situation, embarrassment for me. But then the other one, um, was when I was younger, and I contributed to a horrible, horrible, horrible situation, at summer camp, and I gave my bottle of Banaka to a bunch of kids that had peed in a canteen, to cover up the smell of the pee, that they were giving to the retarded kid, literally the retarded kid, to drink. And that was actually, how old was I? I think I was like 13.
Oof, that's cruel.
It was. It was.
That's a
That
roughie.
was that was literally a couple of months before I started going to church, before I became a Christian. Um, and it was a very, I wasn't a Christian, but I was just like, that was like that overwhelming knowledge of, man, that is just evil. Like I knew that I couldn't, somehow I knew, probably just God's grace, but somehow I knew that if I had have participated in actually peeing in the canteen, that I probably would have faced tremendous consequences. And I believe that charges were pressed actually against the kids that did. But I had to go to, the police hall in Toccoa, Georgia, where I went to camp, and give a statement. And there was no, they didn't have any, they didn't consider anything that I participated in or whatever as part of the actual legal offense. But I definitely had a talking to from the camp director, and then my parents, obviously. But it was,
Yeah,
that's in my, I know it seems kind of weird, but if you think about it from, we all have things in our life, um, but that's definitely one of the top three most embarrassing things. Um, anyway, there's a lot
yeah.
of comments that I've missed.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, most of my stuff is like I'm more ashamed of it than embarrassed by it. I only say that because it was pretty sinful. So I have
Yeah,
a hard time with that. But as an adult, probably my biggest moments
they're not really
are,
people. I'm sorry. Bigby
yeah,
loop
I know,
loop.
I cracked up about that.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Don't worry about yelling at bill collectors. They're
Hey,
not
by the
really
way,
people.
now we have at least four secret people watching.
Yeah,
That
we
that.
were we were up to 8 people for a moment there.
All
I
right,
don't
go ahead.
know. We were
Go ahead.
building. We're back up to 7 now.
All
All
right.
right. Get in the chat, people, and hit the like button. But anyway, um, so as an adult, I would have to say my most embarrassing moments are, as I have confided in y'all before, I have anger issues,
Mm,
and when I was young, I wasn't even embarrassed by them. Like I would get angry at the drop of a hat, and it didn't even bother me.
yeah.
Um, and as an adult, the moments are very, very few and far between. But when it gets the best of me, boy, it's embarrassing.
Oh, you're talking
um,
about when anger gets the best of you?
yep, like
I
I could
mean,
tell you, I've only ever lost my cool. I've coached athletics for, gosh, 14 or 15 years, something like that.
I mean,
And I've only,
that's a whole can of worms when you talk about losing your temper, because when you say that, and in the context of being embarrassed, I've embarrassed myself more times than I could possibly count in reprimanding my children in public, in reprimanding other people's children in public. And by other
I've
people's
only,
children, I know that sounds vague, but I mean like in the group when I used to work at a group home, when I used to work at the boarding school, the kids
oh,
that
okay.
were I was in charge of them, but
Okay.
they weren't
I was gonna say,
my kids.
because I can
Um,
actually I can point to one situation where I flat out overstepped my bounds when it comes to dealing with somebody else's kid, because I was not in charge of them. I was literally a guest in their home,
oh
and
man, oh man.
I know I was a guest in their home. This actually was kind of embarrassing, but this is a long time ago now. So this is when we first started homeschooling our kids, and this kid's mom was one of the people that worked for the state and did testing to make sure that your kid was on track.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm a guest in her home, and apparently her kid is autistic. I don't know how true that is. All I know is the her kid's a jerk.
Awesome, awesome.
Because so I I'm trying to talk to this kid, and he's already got this, like, from my perspective, a too cool for the room attitude. Like, I'm not going to talk to you, you old dude or whatever, right?
Yeah.
At this time, I am I'm touring in a band. So as far as old guys go, I'm kind of cool.
Old guys. Okay.
I mean, I was I was probably 27, 28, maybe something like that.
Okay.
And I'm yeah, I'm touring around, playing music, doing all kinds of stuff like that. This kid is a drummer, right? So I hear him in his. He goes to his room, and starts playing drums, and his mom was like, "Hey, go talk to him about the drums. He'd probably like that." I'm like, "All right." But while she was trying to give my son this testing, I'm like, "All right, that's cool." So I go in the room there, and he's sitting here going, he's playing the drums. He stops when I walk in, and I'm like, "Dude, you could keep playing. It's cool, you know. I'm enjoying the drums or whatever." And he's like, "No, it's fine." And I'm like, I'm in a band. And he goes, "Oh yeah." I'm like, I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, they're probably gay."
That's not autistic. That's not autistic in the slightest. But go
Thank
ahead.
you. That's what I said. His mom kept saying he was autistic, and
No,
I was like, so here I am, a grown man. There's like this 13-year-old playing drums, talking trash to me,
probably gay.
and my response should have been, "Sure, whatever," and walked out. But no, I'm sitting there going, "I guess if you're gay," or something stupid like that. Like, and I was like, I said, "You are a snot nosed little brat who doesn't know his place, right?" And he jumps up from those drums and starts screaming for his mother.
Oh my gosh.
and
Awesome.
I and I have to tell his mother what a horribly immature human being I am, that I get in this little crap
I
talking
don't know,
mess
man.
with a 13-year-old.
Sometimes you never know. You never know how God might speak through us sometimes because that's probably what that kid needed to hear. Yeah,
Oh, he needed a belt, dude.
I'm just saying. Um,
He needed a belt. And what
yeah.
did he say? Being a roadie doesn't count as being in the band. Oh, geez, Bigby. That's hurtful.
I know.
Hurtful.
I
No, I was the lead singer who was also the roadie, because when you're small time, you're both.
yeah.
You don't get roadies.
I was I was a slight roadie of audio adrenaline for a little while, but um we
Whoa,
got to
whoa,
go.
whoa, 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 whoa. Back up. Back up.
What's up?
You were a roadie for who?
Not really a roadie. We never went on the road or anything, but we got to meet Will McGinnis backstage several times, and for some reason, my dad got to be able to. I don't know. My parents were really, or my dad was really good at somehow getting in touch with bands, and we got backstage many times, especially. So I got to meet Switchfoot. I got
That's cool.
their signatures on one of the T-shirts, and I got to meet Earthsuit when Earthsuit was Earthsuit before they were Mute Math.
Yep.
Back when Benjamin Gate, when the lead singer was still alive, I went to one of their concerts, Benjamin Gate and Earthsuit. That was one of the first Christian concerts I ever went to. Um, and then I got to meet Will McGinnis and Audio Adrenaline folks. I didn't get to meet Newsboys. I saw them backstage, but I didn't get to like talk to them or anything. I met Toby Mack. He had like a security guard with him, and it was really awkward and weird the way that they behaved. Um, like his security guard referred to Toby Mack as nobody talks to the Toby unless the Toby wants to. I'm not kidding you. The security guard said nobody talks to the Toby unless the Toby wants to talk to them. That was the impression that I had as a 14-year-old, or 14 or 15. It was wow. It was like Atlanta Fest 97 or 98. 98.
Yeah.
I guess it was 98. Maybe 99. I don't know. But but it was a really awkward, like Toby Mac was still, I mean, he was pretty big. He was when he was still with DC Talk, and but
Yeah.
before he broke off and everything.
So
But then
Audio Adrenaline was like it was the first Christian concert I ever went to.
yeah, they were really down to earth guys.
Yeah.
Will
No,
McGinnis,
Will was awesome.
he named his son Satchmo, which I always thought was like the most unusual. Like, okay, you love music and stuff, but this is weird, bro.
Yeah.
But I think he has like two or three kids. I don't know how many kids he has now, but at that time he had two. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I got to meet several like Soldiers was at Atlanta Fest, and um, that stuff. It sounded so terrible. Rap doesn't sound good live anyway. I mean, it's good studio music, but
It sounds okay. So it sounds okay in a club,
live,
but yeah, live in a club it works, but only if, and this is, even though I hate this, it's true, if they have tracked vocals, so that when they're rapping, there's also the tracked vocal to give them support,
I got you.
because they
It's
typically run
something's
out of breath and
empty.
they can't carry it, you
Yeah,
know.
something's empty about
So,
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
love
it can be
Bigby
very
Lupo.
empty.
You should know by now. You've been
Yeah,
around. You know
KB
that
is the real deal.
KB is my favorite. And dude, nobody represents as hard as Bizzle.
Do
Bizzle
you Have you
Bizzle
ever
has
watched
been,
any of KB's podcasts?
yeah. Well, some of his interviews and stuff. Is that what you
Well,
mean?
he does. Yeah, he does interview. Well, what is? I think he does some podcasts, but yeah, he does interviews. Anyway, but I only ever see clips of it, but it's pretty good.
I'm gonna show you what Bizzle. I hate how sometimes when I'm connected to Wi-Fi, it's like it doesn't work at all. But then my I go to my just data. I turn Wi-Fi off, and it works. I mean, it works just fine. It's like sometimes Wi-Fi just doesn't work. The iPhone. I'm gonna try and find you. You can keep talking. I'm gonna try and find Bizzle's. Like on YouTube, how you can do these like Instagram. Well, I don't know if it's Instagram, Twitter like comments. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like a little picture with some words instead of a video. I think
Yep.
it's called a community announcement. I've done maybe one or two of them, but uh-oh,
He's
Justin Payne did a
KB.
video.
KB's is Southside Rabbi, right? Southside Rabbi. I'm pretty sure
What?
that's what it's called.
What are you talking about?
KB. He has, yeah.
Oh,
His
I
his
don't know.
podcast. His podcast is called Southside Rabbi.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I'm gonna send
So
y'all a link. I'm gonna put a link in the chat.
there it is. God Money is I'm trying to there we go. There we go. God Over Money. This is Bizzle, and that's his YouTube. Is that backwards for you guys or just backwards for me?
It's backwards on the screen here.
Oh. Well, I'll read it, but you saw it. Satan will convince you that you've been so good so long, you deserve to be bad just this once, but God doesn't reward good with evil passes. The devil is a liar. Or hashtag the devil is a liar. Guys, I really love Bizzle. Like his lyrics and his messaging and what he continues to put out over and over and over again. KB and Bizzle are my two favorites. There's a couple other guys that are pretty good. You know, I like Derek Miner. I like Vissel, some of the other guys and stuff, but they get caught up in politics like Lecrae, and
Lecrae, let
it
me tell
gets
you
annoying,
something.
huh?
I'm actually fine. I'm fine with people talking about social justice. It doesn't bother me.
It's
I
fine,
think
but
that
I
I
just
think that
think
there
that
are
you could
some.
do better.
Yeah, I think there are
KB
some
stays out of
levels.
it completely because
Ripley is good.
KB's like the gospel is more important than politics and the news and what's going on in the world. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, because it's something
But
that
to
you can
me,
always go to that's consistent. I don't know.
correct.
Go ahead.
Correct. My problem is okay. So I think it's Bigby said Tripley. I love Tripley. He's good too. But
Tripley's good, and Tripley wants to be a pastor. If he's probably gonna stop rapping, you know, at some point and just be 100% a pastor. But he actually
yeah.
is a pastor of some church somewhere, and like
So
does
here's
weekly
my thing with the
sermons.
social justice is I think if you are preaching the gospel, then you will touch on social issues because
Yeah,
the
if you're aware of
I
it.
just
If
I hate the fact that the idea of social justice has been co-opted by these morons that have turned it into things that it's not, right?
exactly,
Like,
that's why I like
yeah,
actual just. Have you heard of the YouTube channel Actual Justice Warrior?
no, I'll have
He's
to check that out.
here. Let me see if I can. He's got a great channel. I really like his videos. He seems like a centrist. Um, YouTube channel Actual Justice Warrior. Check him out. I'm
Yeah.
pulling it up now. I'll put it on screen.
So like, so like, I don't need somebody to rap about this or whatever, or sing about it or anything, or even preach on it. But like things that bother me are when people get so caught up in their side that they can't acknowledge when um, when their quote unquote side has messed up, right? So, um,
So
for example,
he's got two Twitters.
okay,
Sean Fitzgerald apparently is his name. Um, and then he's got a Patreon and all that good stuff. Oh, he's got two Sean Fitzgeralds. Got to. Um, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm
gotcha.
cutting you off, man. Go ahead.
No, you're all right. You're all right. That's fine. So my point is, like, I came up in law enforcement. My dad was in law enforcement for a little while. Very much on the side of law enforcement. However, like this situation that happened in Dallas, or it was in Fort Worth, sorry, where a lady was literally just in her home, a black lady, and this cop just goes and shoots her.
I
I
saw
don't know
that
if you heard about this
video.
one.
I saw the
The
video and
video,
I was very confused
yeah,
about
he never
what happened. I
he
heard he got
never announced that
convicted,
he
but
was police. Yeah, he never, and well, he didn't get convicted because it hasn't gone to trial yet.
I
He
thought he got convicted.
No,
I
you're
thought he was
probably thinking
convicted
of
of murder.
You're thinking of the female. You're probably thinking of the girl cop.
Oh, that
She
what?
got convicted.
Okay, see, I thought that guy got convicted.
No,
'Cause-
because it just happened. They
And I
haven't
was
had a
like,
chance to
I
go to
mean,
trial
I
yet.
wouldn't be surprised. It was very weird. I was like, what did he see that caused him to pull a trigger?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer. I don't know what he saw, but what I do know is he did not declare that he was police. He was on her property or her mother's property.
Okay.
She was playing video games.
You're talking about the
Ridiculous.
dude that
He,
responded to a complaint from neighbors about a noise complaint.
oh yeah, it wasn't a noise complaint. It was okay. So the neighbor saw her door open. It was like 2 in the
Okay.
morning,
And there was
and her
kids.
neighbor said, "Oh, I'm worried because I know it's this lady that's there."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he didn't
yeah.
want to go check because he didn't know what it was. So he calls the police. Of course, that guy feels awful now. So the interview I saw with him, he's just heartbroken. He's like, if I hadn't called the police, my neighbor would still be alive. You know.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
calls the police, and they come around. They yell for her to show us your hands or whatever, and there's boom, 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 just without any opportunity for anything to happen. So here's my point. I'm normally going to side most of the time with the authority figure in the situation
Yeah.
because most of the time it's usually people bucking the authority figure that causes problems.
Causing some kind
Uh,
of scene or acting out, acting a
right.
fool. Yeah.
Where if they'd have just complied with whatever and
But
then
he was
dealt with
standing on the other side of
it
a
later,
of a house's window. It wasn't even a
there
normal
was nothing. There was
so
nothing. There was no opportunity to comply. There was nothing. Big B's right. Less than 4 seconds. It's crazy, right? So here's my thing because I'm trying as I get older,
and then I'm
but this is
confused. I thought that pistols were incredibly ineffective. I mean, but then again, over and over again, I'm like these cops kill people
well
so easily.
when you're trained. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but I guarantee you, if I was able to shoot someone, they would probably die. Because I'm a very good shot.
I know I'm just over and over again you hear about the inefficiency and inaccuracy of pistols.
From
But then
who?
this okay, I'm talking about maybe at 50 feet, 100 feet, stuff like that, right? But this
Yeah,
dude's
well,
this dude's
at
20
25,
feet.
let me see, at
This dude's
25
10
is 75 feet,
this
right?
dude's 10 to 20 feet away from a person, but the bullet had to travel through a window. And
That's true too.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
it seems as though that would actually affect things, but obviously not. I mean,
from
not.
70 from 75 feet.
But then also
If I
the
fired like
bullet,
if I
the
fired,
bullet. You know, you're hearing words from somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. So forgive me,
you're
but
fine.
but I don't know what kind of caliber bullets police have in their standard issue pistols, but
It depends.
it
It's
just
either going to be a
seems
38
it,
or it's going to be a 40.
it
Most of them have
seems
gone to 40s.
unusual how frequently these people are just like are dying instead of being near fatally wounded, right? And maybe you just don't hear as much about the people that are nearly killed as opposed to the ones that are actually killed. Maybe there's more, I don't know. But
Oh, there's a ton of that. Um,
he said training takes over, confession, I suck at firearms, shotgun is my friend.
so
I never shot a gun unless BB guns count. They do 40 now, sure, why not? It's because we're under martial law already. We live in a police state.
I'm with Chuck on that, honestly. So here's the whole thing, and we can go back to the firearms talk if you want.
Yeah,
But
no, it's all good.
the as I get older, I'm trying to do better at empathizing with people, right? And so if I were a black person living in Fort Worth, I don't think I would call the police for anything.
Why Texas
I
though? So I hear you. If you were to say
because twice because twice because
Chicago,
twice
Illinois,
in
you know.
Fort Worth, twice in Fort Worth, a police officer has shot an unarmed black person in their own home, twice in the last year. The last
So
one was a female off duty,
so what are the
claiming that she thought she was in the wrong apartment,
so here's the
right?
thing
And
though.
then this one is somebody
Here's the
who
thing.
was on
That's what's
duty.
on the news, though, Jeremy.
Huh?
That's what's on the news, though. What I'm wondering is how many random old white guys, how many random crackheads, how many random other people are also getting shot and killed wrongfully, like just because you know what I'm saying, like
Right, right,
that
right.
aren't
But
getting
we don't. But they don't
televised.
fit the narrative. I'm not right. Okay, so this is my point. My point is not what the data represents.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. Because see, that's the I'm I'm like you. I
Bigby
sit
says
there and
we
look at
don't
I
know
look
what
at
we
the
don't
data.
know.
He's right, right. So
Yeah.
my thing is, I look at the data and I go, okay, so you're more likely a, a, a white person is most likely to be killed by a white person. A black person is most likely to be killed by a black person,
Yeah.
statistically, right?
And it makes
If
sense.
there, if there is somebody that is killed across racial lines, they're most likely to be killed by a black person. Right? I'm just saying statistics, okay? Police officers are more likely to be shot by a black person, statistically,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But
Right. But that's because they have interactions that are based on all kinds of other
on the
stuff.
other hand, police officers are probably more likely to shoot and kill a black person than a white person. Probably.
Okay, so it depends how you look at it. If you look at it per capita, you're correct. But if you look at it at just flat numbers, police shoot more unarmed white people than unarmed black people.
Okay.
But if
Gotcha.
you take that across the fact that it's 13% of the population,
Ian
then
Ian's
you're
trying
getting
to
crazy.
lighten the topic here. He said
And men are more likely to be by women scorned.
it's it's
Uh,
he's not lying. Um
what does this say? Oh,
some
they're talking about the ability of a BB gun. So, but my point is this: because I'm so facts based, and I've typically looked at data.
yeah.
I'm trying I'm trying to be. It doesn't change what the facts are, but I'm trying to see. Okay, if I was coming from a different perspective, how would I feel about these facts? Okay, and so what I'm saying is, if I was a black person and I lived in Fort Worth, Texas, where now two black people have been shot in their homes by cops, I wouldn't call the police to settle any problem that I had. That's what I'm getting at. I would be like, yeah, I think I'm going to handle this on my own. The last time we called the police, we just got shot, right? So it doesn't make it true. I'm just saying that that's probably how I would feel if I was in that situation. I feel like the police were an enemy and definitely not a public servant.
Yeah. It's weird though because
Just so anomalies.
as a young person, and I mean college age, still consider that a young person. I um I was afraid of the cops, not because I thought I might be caught for doing something illegal. I was afraid of the cops as a white man in my teens and early 20s because I thought that the cops might knock me off because they were I had all the same fears of cops even as a white guy in North Georgia of all places because of all the propaganda and things that I had heard and seen in movies, horror movies and all that kind of stuff, that the cops were dirty and that they would do this and they do that, and cops are on a power trip, and there's tons and tons of propaganda out there. And
Well, you call it propaganda, but there is some long history of dishonest state police in Georgia
but
and
here's the thing,
Virginia and a few places. Go ahead.
apart from the general explanation of it being sin, crimes do have a motive. Okay, so if a cop is going to pull a white guy over, for instance, and in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a backwoods, country road and just shoot him because he's a dirty cop or whatever. There's a motive. I'm just making the argument that there's a motive. And some people, oh, it's just sin. Okay, yeah, there's a motive. There's still, yes, sin is present. We get it, but there would be a motive for that, right? And the fact of the matter is, I never even rationalized or tried to understand what that motive might be in my instance. I still had what I would call an irrational fear that that could happen. So anytime I had an encounter with a police officer, I was always suspicious and cautious in dealing with them, and prayerful that I wasn't about to be taken out for. Um, all I'm saying is I experienced all those same fears as a white man. That's all I'm saying. And and I think that there's a lot of people out there that want to. I'm gonna sneeze probably. No, I'm gonna hold this one off. Okay, I'm good. I'm just gonna tear up a little bit. Um, I just think there's a lot of people out there that act like people get to live their life in complete peace and because of the color of their skin or whatever. Complete peace, and they never ever had to even think twice about whether or not a cop would blah blah blah. That's not true at all. It's not true at all. That's my point, and that's what really irritates me about
So
racial conversations. When people act like um, only one type of person or only one color of skin has to have a certain type of fear. It's just not true. Um,
so so they're talking about racism in the South. So I was raised until I was 14 in the North. And I will say that living what I did, there was almost no racism. Um, in my entire elementary school, there was only 2 black kids in the whole school, and I didn't see any racist treatment of them. Um, but what I will say when I moved to Florida, which by the way, if y'all don't know Florida, I'm not on the beach in Florida. I'm in the country. um, and I say the word boy in the South too, Big B. That's a misnomer. Anyway, however, if you call a black man boy, they will typically get upset. But
yeah, it's so old. That's so old.
yeah, it's an old one. But anyway, there's a what I have found to be true is there are certain people who don't care about race, and you get along just fine either way. And then there are other people who only want to associate people with people that are just like them. I don't consider those people racist. I just say they are only comfortable with what they're familiar with, like surroundings they're familiar with. Like the, that's funny. Um, I know plenty of black people that prefer to be around black people, plenty of Hispanics that prefer to be around Hispanics
What?
and
What?
whites that prefer to be around
Pause.
whites
Pause. Pause. No one is more tribal,
than Hispanics.
dude. Are you kidding me? Those guys, they're like the kings of tribal.
Yeah.
I Latinos, and here's the thing though. It's because they have a strong, strong culture. Very,
Yep.
very, very specific culture. Barbecuing, um, mechanics, just their interest in football, you, sports, food, and entertain, and also how they occupy themselves.
And
Um,
Catholicism.
what's the word? With their hands when they're working. mechanic and construction based skill sets are part of their hobbies. Tim the Toolman Taylor is not even a trope anymore. I mean, there are Tim the Toolman Taylors. They're mostly on YouTube though. Culturally speaking, it's I don't know. Latinos are
Thank you, Chuck. Chuck
that's a
heard me.
uh,
Catholicism.
you think Catholicism is what makes Latinos tribal?
Not entirely, but they are very tribal about it.
In what way? Help me understand, because
In
I know that they're
levels of idol worship. There's like one thing you can't mess with in the Hispanic family's house, and that is their little candles, which have Mary and Jesus kneeling on them, and all this stuff.
I've been in a lot of Latino houses. I used to do life insurance and telephone, like with AT&T. I saw all that stuff. I didn't for one second think, oh, let me mess with this. I
No, no,
saw it and I
no.
was
But I'm
like,
just
oh,
saying. No, they esteem those items to a very high level.
okay.
They're always in a place of honor in the house.
Yeah, yeah. Usually centrally located, kind of, or in
Hmm.
every room. Most of the time, what I saw, they'd be in the kitchen, they'd be in the living room, they'd be in their bedrooms. They were everywhere, but I don't know. I didn't really. That's not what I focused on. Um, I mean, I noticed it. I don't know. It wasn't that big of a deal. It is a big deal, though. But
What I'm getting at is like Ian's talking about the fact that he's Catholic, and this is the thing. I know Catholics. I'm friends with some Catholics. They do not, um, and I'm being incredibly stereotypical, but we are right now. That's what we're doing. So, the white Catholics I know do not esteem items to levels of like idol worship in their house,
yeah,
like the Hispanic families that I
yeah,
know that have those things. And I don't know why that
yeah.
is. I couldn't tell you why. It just seems to be true.
Italian and Latino
No
Catholics.
Protestants allowed. Ah,
That's hilarious, actually.
it is.
Um, I don't know. It's funny because it. What's funny about that? No Protestants allowed. I can't help but respect that a little bit. Like, despite the fact
Right?
that
Right.
I disagree with it, but something about that um, fortitude, religious fortitude, actually, I can't help but respect a little bit. Um, it's kind of funny. Um, Hispanic girls are brutal to white dudes. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I haven't.
Did you see what Bigby said?
Um,
They have they have Lady Death. There was such a mix of voodoo, Santeria, and Catholicism. It can be really confusing. They seem to be pretty superstitious, but that's kind of what I'm talking about too. Like, oh, they'll hand you this
yeah, yeah.
symbol of the patron saint of this or that or whatever, and it's like, yeah, what does that do for me?
It's a lot of culture. It's a lot of tradition. I worked with some guys that were Latino Catholics, and when I talked to them about certain things that I was doing at church and stuff, and asked them questions about what they were doing, it was interesting because they were curious. It was there was these two dudes. What was his one dude's name? It wasn't Romeo. It was it doesn't matter. It was a long time ago anyway. But um, these two dudes that I worked with, and they were curious about the Protestant type church that I went to, and um, I don't know. It's interesting. I really I liked talking with them. They were nice guys, but they definitely were superstitious and all that. But Um,
What's up, Ice?
hey, cold as ice bear.
It's
I'll, dude.
been a long time.
Oh yeah, I was about to say you used to come to my morning streams a lot. Our schedules must be way way off at this point because I remember you being on my morning streams when I did the commuting back in Florida. Um, but yeah, man, what's up? Glad you're here.
So
Um,
my whole point with all that was to say that I think the South is more tribalistic than the North, from my
Tribalistic.
experience.
Is it that the North is so racially diverse that
We
pe
weren't. I grew up in not diverse. We only
okay,
had a couple of black families, and those black families were treated well. They were accepted. They integrated into the lifestyle we had. So I don't. They and my opinion is because there actually was so little diversity, it made them more accepted because they couldn't be tribalistic, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like they couldn't afford to be.
Yeah, if
And
you
down,
that's the thing.
yeah,
If you've got one Korean family in a town, nobody's looking at that. They're just like, "Oh, look, happy, look, the Korean family." And nobody's like, "Oh, the Korean family." But if you have 40 Korean families in a small town, they've made their own church. They have their own little restaurant. I mean,
yeah.
Koreans, whatever.
So
I don't care. But what I'm saying is they now have their own little niche, and they're different. Okay, see, another sneeze is coming. So
it's ridiculous.
when I stop a sneeze, my eyes water, and it's very uncomfortable. Um, but yeah,
I don't know how you stop a sneeze. I don't think I've ever officially done that in my life.
it's it's big brain. So there,
That's what it is.
one of
Yep.
my favorite things on Kit Boga's channel, he'll be talking to these Indians, and he gets to the point where they're like so angry and stuff, and there's a couple of funny phrases that they say, and one of them is, "Do not be over smart." So they're the memorific things that these people say to Kit Boga, but do not be over smart is one of the memorific things that has been said to him. You're trying to be over smart. Do not be over smart, and it's just it's memorific. But anyway, um, it's completely
So,
random. I'm
but
sorry.
Big B, my point is that being tribal is not being racist. It's the same as saying I'm tribalistic about Christians. It doesn't mean I hate people that aren't Christians.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I like to be around people who are into what I'm into, and for me, I'm not as far as race goes. I'm not tribalistic, but it's just because of how I was raised, and I know that some people, if early on you're not around people that are different than you typically don't get around people that are different than you. Like for the rest of your life, you try to stay around people that are like you. Um, but being involved in ministry at a young age, you get around all kinds of people. We did street ministry and we did music ministry in prisons and halfway houses and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, so you get around all kinds of people because we would go to we lived like 20, 30 minutes from the Twin Cities. The Twin Cities in Minnesota are very diverse, right?
They are.
So,
Yeah.
so we'd go there and volunteer at soup kitchens and volunteer. My dad did chaplain work at prisons and jails.
It's
And
funny because
so
now I'm living just a couple of hours below that right now. You know.
yep, no, I know you're very close to my family, not that far away from up there. So, but anyway, my point being, if you're not raised up that way, where you're around a bunch of different people, then you do develop biases, and that can turn into things that are racist. But it's it's different.
I don't
It's
know.
different. To me, it's different because racism implies hatred, and
Which
just because
requires which requires it doesn't make sense for a born again Christian to be a racist just as much as it doesn't make sense for a born again Christian to be a homosexual. Like being a racist is, in my opinion, is the same as being a homosexual. It's a lifestyle that you're refusing to repent of sin in your life, and that's why out of all the things that Jesse Lee Peterson ever said, that's one thing that I did agree with, that racism isn't. Um, there's no such thing. It's really just a sin problem. Um, that's one tiny little thing I can agree with that guy, but um,
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of how he words that, but I agree with the sentiment
even the
that it's all
devil
it's all
quotes the
sin.
Bible.
It's
So
all sin.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
anyway, no, and I'm not saying it's okay. It's okay to be racist at all. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that I don't consider it hateful if you have a preference of who you're around.
Cold as
And
Ice summed it up pretty good. As for basically most of us here agree that tribalism is not racism, but some people would say that that tribalism is racism. Some people would literally say, "Oh, you've never had a such and such person in your house. Oh, well, you're obviously a racist then." No, I've just never had the opportunity for that other thing to happen because I don't have anything in common with whatever, Oh, that's because you've never taken the chance because you're a racist. Maybe, maybe not. Um, but anyway,
yeah.
it's
So
it's interesting
my
stuff.
my brother-in-law, I had a brother-in-law,
Hating
Chris's
is a
wife.
choice, by the way, for sure.
Oh, 100% hating is a choice. I had a brother-in-law who maybe like 20 years ago now, he was carjacked, and the person jumped in his car, um,
Pakistani guy. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
pulled out a knife, and put it right in his side. Didn't
Yeah,
actually stab him, but put the knife right there,
yeah,
and said, "Take me to such and such place." Right. So he drives the guy to the place he wants to go. Guy jumps out. Okay. My brother-in-law's reaction to this, he had a major mental breakdown. Okay. Um, really, really like PTSD, like you wouldn't believe from it, because he thought he was going to die. He like truly thought he was going to die in that car. Well, anyway, the weird thing that happened to him was he started to, and this dude, let me tell you something, not a racist. Like this dude hung out with everybody all the time. When he was going through high school, he was like the guy that everybody got along with. He's just one of those dudes that like he could have sat down at any table in a lunchroom and would have got along with everybody there. So anyway, he, because of the situation, he literally was having a involuntary physical reaction anytime he saw somebody that was that race.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, he even told me, he told me this in confidence at the time because he was so ashamed of it.
Sure,
He was in the store, and a little old lady who happened to be that race
sure.
is in the aisle that he needed to go down. He skipped the aisle. He
Yeah,
skipped the aisle. He's like, I couldn't walk down that aisle. It was so crazy, right?
but it's like PTSD. I mean, anybody that's in the military that's been overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff, those guys can relate to that 100%. It doesn't mind, like they could see a little 7-year old girl of that race, and they're going to have thoughts um, because of the context, and it's doesn't mean it's just context that you've been through, the context you've been through, and the experiences you've been through are going to paint how you react. It's a natural reaction of self-protection. It's it
Right,
is perfectly normal, and it doesn't mean that hate is in your heart at all.
right. And that's
Um,
what I'm saying. Because if it was a voluntary thing, would be one thing. You know what I
Just
mean? You're
like
choosing to be
everyone
that way.
equally. Nice.
But yeah. Well, that used to be my defense when I get accused. Because
I disagree,
if you,
Ian. I
what are you gonna
disagree.
say?
I've known a lot of white trash people, hoarders and stuff that have plenty of love in their life that just are just like just live the most garbage lifestyles you could possibly imagine, like rotting out teeth rotting out of their heads, drugs, just terrible lifestyles and sin, but also have like just low economic, the most what you would call white trash, the worst of the worst, but also have strong morals, teaching their kids, obviously not good health stuff, but I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea to rule any category of people out. I mean, that's what I mean. I said folks are guilty until proven innocent by the blood of Jesus was my comment. And
Yeah.
I look at all people in a suspicious way. Everybody, I I don't care if you're a rich dude. I don't care if you're a poor dude. I look at everybody suspiciously, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well that was interesting. Okay, well let me hear more. Let me hear more. I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I see what kind of person you are. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in situations where there's actual poop on the floor, and like of somebody's living room, not animal poop, right? I've been in houses where I knew there was love, even though those houses I would pragmatically judge as just the most garbage, horrible situations. Um, and I've worked in mental hospital, and like, remember, God made us, and because of that, He wants us to be saved. We are redeemable, no matter what context and culture we come from. But let's see, love in their life and cat food in their cabinets. Exactly. I know cool poor white people who don't mow their lawns, but the methed out ones are what bother me. Meth is a bad drug. Um, drugs are terrible in general, but yeah, it changes them. It changes. It really robs the person of who they are and who they could be. Um, but yeah, terrible people be more Christian than Christians. I know what you mean.
We were just talking about that earlier, Cold as Ice and Chuck. We were talking about how it's kind of one of the sadder things when you know someone that's like really good and dependable
Yeah,
and nice
yeah,
person, and yet they don't know Christ. How like it's so frustrating to you.
yeah,
So anyway, yeah.
for sure. All right. Well, I feel like we've kind of gotten to the end. We didn't even get truth or dare. We still have three secret. We definitely have three secret. Because look, one, two, three, four, five. Okay, so we have two because breath is five. Um, Cold as ice, Ian, Big B, intoxicating. We have two secret viewers right now. People that think that they're really funny for never revealing themselves. Um, I don't think that they're funny at all. In fact, I would shoot a rubber band at them right now if I could. I would hit them in the knee. That's how. I mean, do you hear how strongly? Oh, check it out. Semper Bear. Semper Bear has 28 people, 29 people, and I have 7. So you guys, Sergeant Peterson and Goose and it's Sawson and Calvin and Hobbes Bear and I'm sure he has some secret viewers too, because there's just people that like to do that. They think it's funny. But you guys can go check out Semper Bear, who said he wanted to do an interview with me like 4 or 5 months ago. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it'll never happen. It's just, you got to be intentional
His
about things. That's all.
yeah, his channel is kind of blowing up.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, he's got over 600 subscribers now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's been growing pretty good.
Six
But
hundred
he
and
does it
twelve.
all the time. He's always streaming and he's always hyped up. I just don't get that excited about stuff.
He's very, very. He knows how to tune into his emotions for sure. Uh,
Yeah,
let's see. We just moved to a smaller church. They're spending 19 million on renos.
renovations.
Oh, thank you. At the old church. Yeah, that's sad. It's a heartbreaking thing when churches are spending money like that, um, whether it's by debt or by cash or whatever, because we all know that Jesus should be more than important enough for us to be meeting under a leaky roof. I mean, I understand that there's certain pragmatics about infrastructure, but on the other hand, um, i if you really believe in the God of the Bible, God of creation, then I'm pretty sure that you, it's just, I don't know, it's baffling. People get caught up in people get so caught up in what they think is best, and from the niceties of life, and it's crazy. Semper spirals a lot, but his stream can be good sometimes. It's just emotional, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. You just got to use it in the right ways.
Yeah.
I got memes to make. No room for new channels right now. I might check them out later, but this is a good spot for me. I appreciate that, Bigby. Um, Bigby is a meme machine. He's on minds.com, kicking out memes on a regular. Um,
I have a hard time getting into mines. I don't know.
yeah, well, that I looked at it on a
It's
browser for the first time in a long time. I had only used it on my phone, and
yeah, I don't
apparently
like it on the phone.
it wasn't made for the phone really. So
Oh, gotcha.
that's why it doesn't work very well. I mean, rather I should say it hasn't been properly optimized for the phone. That probably would be the most accurate way to put it.
Gotcha.
Um,
And I spend most of my time on my phone, so
yeah, and then I'm like, oh dang, I've got all these coins. Um, I've got all these mines coins that have just been given to me and stuff over the time. So I used one of them the other day to get 1,000 views on one of my. So supposedly you can use a token to get 1,000 views on one of your posts. So I had 53 views on one of my videos, the Adam Eliyahu video. Whoops, I didn't mean to put that over there. Now you guys saw all my emails and all the people. So I had 53 views. I bought 1,000 views on mines, and that probably resulted in 0 extra views. Let's see. Uh, I'm just curious. Do you have any final words, man? I figure we're wrapping it up.
um
Where in the world?
real quick I wanted to tell just 'cause I didn't feel like typing. Cold as Ice was talking about his church.
It's
So
resulted in 0 views. Just yeah, I had 53 views. I bought 1,000 views on minds.com. I now have 53 views on that same video.
that's
So
hilarious.
whatever.
So Cold as Ice. My church didn't have a building, but we have no debt. We were gifted a building and some land with no debt, but it's too small. So we're at 3 services because we don't have enough room for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when we're just now starting to try and figure out how we're going to raise money to build the building.
So
But
here's the
we
thing, though.
definitely ain't going into debt.
So
That's
so
just
here's the
ridiculous.
thing, though. If you have
I'm
that
listening.
many, if you have that many people that
Uh-huh.
are hypothetically, I'll use that fancy word, hypothetically, getting trained up in the gospel, then why out of those hundreds of people, I'm assuming hundreds, why out of those hundreds of people are there not people that have been adequately equipped to branch? See, I guess the big thing is this, and I understand that.
Because our growth is as of late, just so you know. Just so
Okay,
you're aware. We're
I,
only 8 years old as a church plant, and
what I'm saying is,
we've only been over we have less than 300 people. We have a very small building.
I'm not trying to criticize you by any
And
means. It's
no, no,
more
no,
so this.
you're okay because the reality is you're correct. If our situation was what you're describing, I would totally agree with you.
I
So
just
what
wish that
we
there was
are
more practical means to doing home churches. Basically, long story short, I wish that equipping of the saints was more intentional in such a way that everybody could have. There would be a dude that had been adequately equipped that would be able to have 3 families, maybe 4, in his house, and that's it, over and over again. And once that household got up to 6 families in a household on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever, um, or whatever day of the week, whatever day of the week they chose to celebrate and be part of, be the church together. Whatever the case, once they got to like 6 families, somebody had been adequately equipped to, over and over again. But not that each house. I mean, hypothetically, I just think that that would be the most ideal. I understand that logistically, there's tons of arguments against that because you could say, oh well, I mean, they're not sufficiently trained to actually shepherd, 3 or 4 other families. That all depends on your perspective of the purpose and role of somebody that's preaching the gospel to a couple of other families. What it would require is a certain assumption amongst the 3 to 4 or 5 families. It would be a certain assumption that everybody is reading the Bible, and there's just this one guy that has a good 5 to 10 year head start in comparison to the other families. And what it would mean too, that this is my dream slash vision for the ideal modern church. It would require a certain abandonment of the club of church. It would require a certain attitude towards church as, oh, you're part of the body, dude, that's great. But it also might in a lot of ways require a certain central structure, not necessarily a building or even an office of any kind, but some type of, I don't know. I'm just kind of riffing on what a conversation that I've been having with my wife since we've been married, basically about what we think the church ought to look like in reality, as opposed to what it actually is these days. Because on the other hand, you'd be like, how could a pastor ever survive? Well, he wouldn't be making money because of the church, though. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Am I so far in left field for you right now that you're like, I don't even know what in the world to say?
No, but here's the thing. You this is what's interesting, and I'm not saying that that one is more mature than the other. However, you are currently about where I was 10 years ago on this topic.
Okay.
And for some reason, wait, no, not 10 years ago. Ooh, 19 years ago. Good Lord, it's been a while. Anyway, God, for some reason, gave me a love for the Evangelical Presbyterian Church.
Hmm.
And I am a big fan of how they train up, how they disciple, how they um, ensure that the people who are teaching in their pulpits are equipped to do that job.
Are they
So I'm
equipped?
like,
Are they equipped? Are the pastors in general in the denomination you're referring to, are they
mm-hmm.
equipped? Are they equipped because they went to seminary, or are they equipped because of the function of the church itself?
So the answer is both.
Okay.
Um, the the way our churches operate is in the function of the purpose of the church itself is to edify and disciple believers and ultimately to glorify God. So the outpouring of that results in evangelism, right? Like proper discipleship always results in evangelism. But if the primary function of the church is evangelism, I would say that's incorrect. That the people should be evangelizing, the church as an entity should be discipling people to the point of evangelism, if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do. I mean, because
Like not
I also have a
unfortunately.
classical
Go ahead.
education. I went to college for youth ministry. I got the classical education,
Yeah,
seminary, homiletics. I took those classes too,
yeah.
and all of that. I still feel like ideally, I think it would be most ideal if the church was able to accomplish what seminaries accomplish, but in the church.
That would be
Um,
nice because a local seminary near me that's good is about would run me
I hear you.
another 50, 60 grand.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's very unfortunate. I believe wholeheartedly it's not necessary. Um, I really do because there are plenty of examples of people that
Yeah.
haven't been to seminary, but they literally just loved God
So
and devoted their lives to study and all those sorts of things. But anyway, I get the distinction you're making that the people should be have a heart for evangelism and that the church should have a heart for discipleship. I get that distinction, um, but it seems as though that's only a consequence of size and infrastructure, and not
so
necessarily um, what has to be, so to speak. Does that make sense?
I missed you a little bit on the end there. I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Um, I'm saying not necessarily what has to be. The
So you
equipping of
think
the
this?
saints is definitely a role of the church. And every time I use the word church, I am meaning to say the body of believers. I'm not meaning to
Yeah, that's
say a building. Hopefully, we're pretty much all on the same page
yeah.
on that.
Unfortunately, I interchange it too much because
Yeah.
when I am talking about my local church, I am being specific to that church body.
Well,
But you'll
yeah,
also have the global church, the global body of believers
which
that is
has
also
a
true.
lot of um, there's a lot of there's not enough uh, connectedness in the global body of Christ by any means. It's
No,
very broken for sure. Um, we're only vaguely the body of Christ as a whole, the true body of Christ, those that truly believe, that are truly saved, even still, in my opinion, that is still only vaguely on the same trajectory as far as I see it. Um, I think in a lot of ways, there's so many distractions in our world that that we seem to be pointed in different. We have different purposes because of westernization of society. We've been infiltrated with the belief that we can be anything. You can do anything. You can be anything you want.
Yeah.
You can you can go up on your roof. Young kids ages 10 to 12, get up on your roof. This I'm sorry, I'm quoting a Key and Peele skit that I think is hysterical, and I've shared with many people. The Key and Peele episode that you can do anything is the title, I think, of the Key and Peele skit. Um, and it's hilarious because it really embodies the concept of Western society, that you can be anything you want to be, and I think it distorts our perspective of what's important, and the gospel and our purposes that God has given us, very simply
So
in the Bible. But go ahead,
so
man.
yeah,
Final
yeah. So
final thoughts and
not to
stuff.
not to drag on like crazy, but that's kind of the reason why I like the church that I'm in now. I mean the denomination. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because I grew up saying, "Hey, every time two or three are gathered, this is church," and I don't disagree with that. And I grew up saying, all you need is a house and some people with their Bible to have church. And I don't disagree with that either.
Uh,
However, I have been confronted by really bad theology, false teaching, and just some really ignorant stuff
yeah,
about God. And it's scary to me how no oversight allows that to happen
yes,
sometimes. Now,
absolutely.
sometimes it happens even with oversight, right?
True,
Um,
true.
but so that's the reason why I can recommend to anyone, hey, there's not enough of them out there, but Google the EPC church in your area, and I promise you, you will hear the Bible preached.
I don't think there are any. There's a
There
ton
might,
of Lutherans around where I live, and
yeah,
Catholics, and a bunch of homo churches, and I mean that quite
yeah,
literally. With when I say
exactly.
homo churches, um, that's just what they are. But yeah,
I'm gonna type it out.
evangelical Presbyterian.
Yeah.
We've been to, my wife and I used to go to a Presbyterian church in Boone. Um, evangelical, um,
So
but and we liked it. Um, but
the yeah, so my point is, so
34
when we
miles. That's actually about how far we drive.
what?
Applington Evangelical Presbyterian Church is 51 minutes. That's about 20 minutes further than we go to church right now. They're in Applington, Iowa. There is an
Wow.
evangelical Presbyterian church. Really and truly, let me see what direction that is, though, for real.
So let me
Oh,
just finish that thought real quick.
yeah, go ahead, go
So
ahead.
the part of the process of being ordained, unlike unlike what I grew up with, people aren't just ordained for the purposes of ordaining them, but they're actually ordained to what we say is a call, right? So you don't just, okay, this person knows a lot, they're ordained, and now they can go do whatever. Instead, it's, hey, the Applington Evangelical Presbyterian Church would like to call Devin as their pastor. Okay, in order for that to happen, Devin has to go in front of, there's there's actual exams they want you to take to show your knowledge of scripture and your knowledge of church history and things like that, right? And then the then you also go and you're examined in front of other presbytery elders. Okay. And the whole point of this is just to try to make sure that no one gets through the cracks without knowing the truth of the
Yeah,
gospel.
yeah, I get
And,
that.
and
I've
yeah,
looked into a lot of different church structures, and I appreciate the elder models and stuff like that. Um, I I mean, there's congregational style too, and where there's voting and all that stuff, and I don't know, but um, I think that there should be a little bit of a combination of both, um, but yeah, I get that, and I don't disagree. I've been in a lot of settings where they're trying to wing it because they they're trying to do their best, but you've got this one dude that just slips in with this slick tongue or whatever, and just lead
yeah,
the whole pack off a ledge. And there was a church in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of hippies slash hipsters, and man, it was terrible. It was a church called the Body Church in Asheville, and it was like a it was like a pagan club. It was just insanity. How feel goody. We only went twice, and we were just like our second visit. I had the conversation with my wife, and I was like, okay, we could do one of two things. I could stay and help fix these people because I have the adequate training and knowledge and equipping to do the job, or we could do something else and go to a place that's going to feed our family and be beneficial. Anyway, we obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but we chose to do something that was to be a little bit more beneficial for, not that it. I mean, fighting through a situation where you think you might have the opportunity to change the trajectory of a hypothetical church that might be headed off of a cliff into cult land. Um, Obviously, if you could grab the reins again and pull it back in, that would be plenty good thing for your kids to see. But we just made the decision that you have to have opportunity too. And at that time, I didn't feel like I had adequate opportunity based on the job I had. I didn't think that I would be able to devote enough time to change the, their course. Anyway, it's random stuff, but um, it's crazy your experiences. Bigby says, I don't know what is. Don't go to PC. Yeah, don't go to PCUSA. Of course not. But I mean, I guess a lot of people don't know that. But basically, if they have a rainbow up on the front of their on the
no, but
church,
that's the thing. When I tell people I'm Presbyterian, that's the crazy people they think of. It's so
uh,
weird.
yeah,
I
that's
was like, wait a
sad.
minute, are you guys with gays in the pulpit? And I'm like, no.
Not all. I mean, not all Episcopalians are. Not all Episcopalians have lesbian pastors, but a good majority of them do. Um, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, I mean the other thing is the word universalist. If you see the word
Oh,
universal or universalist, obviously
yeah.
that's another thing to just run the other direction.
Yeah.
Um, could ever have come, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I don't know what Big B was talking about. We've definitely had a consistent 1 to 3 secret viewers, and right now there's absolutely one person that is a secret viewer that has never revealed himself this entire time. Um, just saying, it's crazy. Um, yeah, Bigby did do a article about me. It was really nice. He got a couple of things really incorrect about me, but it was still fun to read. Well, it wasn't about me actually. The inaccuracies I think were primarily about my family, which is funny. Funny, he did great research. Creepy, creepy level of research, actually. But that means that the information that Bigby got his hands on um, was um, was public information. Like he looked this stuff up, and it was inaccurate about things that my parents had done because there's websites out there that exploit people trying to look information up about people, and they'll have canned descriptions and stuff based on a registration of some kind or whatever that will mislead you. So don't believe everything you see on the internet. But it was still cool what Bigby did. Um, I never dealt. I didn't. I've never dealt with heroines. I've met a couple heroes in my life, but I've actually never met a heroine. Um, I've met people that have done heroin, but I never met a heroine. Um, Gary. Who's Gary? Abraham Lincoln. I love it. Oh, that's great. Um, I don't know what that means though. Gary. It's Gary.
I don't either. I don't either. That's why I just said I'm
Wait,
lost.
is cold as ice? Is cold as ice names? I thought cold as ice names started with an A, and I don't want to say your name because some people get a little weirded out. But I think cold as ice's name starts with an A. Um, I would only know that because cold as ice, I'm pretty sure sent me a PayPal once or twice or four times or something. Oh, I'm okay. I'm sorry. Well,
Who's Gary?
if your name is Colin, then I don't know who Gary is. I don't know any Garys.
Who's Gary? I have no idea what
Gary
the
is
reference is with Gary.
such a different kind of name too. Like not
Gary is the snail on SpongeBob.
well,
It's his pet.
true that.
Most famous Gary.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't. I mean,
That
Gary.
and Gary, Indiana.
What?
Gary, Indiana. It's a city.
Oh, it
I was
sounds
being
so.
stupid.
It sounds so much like Erie and in Indiana. So I'm like, wait,
Oh,
what?
I guess.
Um, yeah, I don't know who Gary is, but
I
he.
don't know what the Gary reference was, and apparently he doesn't care to enlighten us.
Oh, maybe the secret viewer is a person named Gary.
Oh, got it. We just didn't get the joke. Okay.
It's all good.
He's a Gary. Got it.
Well, Jeremy, this was very random, um,
Yes, it was.
but but it was fun. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, me
And
too.
next Friday, I will be at a volleyball tournament, so
Um,
don't even send the invite.
well, prayers for the fam,
Yep.
safety, sports and stuff can get a little crazy. So especially volleyball. Volleyball can be pretty gruesome on your joints. Um, so
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Diving on hard surfaces isn't cool sometimes.
you gotta learn some parkour tuck and rolls or something. I think that would probably
Yeah.
come in handy. Wouldn't that? I mean, that'd be pretty funny if you had somebody on the team that was like a parkour master and all their dives consisted of these shoulder rolls. Be pretty cool. Anyway, everybody have a great night, and of course, as I always say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Um, it's very important. It's the most important thing. Um, it was it was fun in the chat though, and I want to come up with more derogatory things to say to the secret viewer, but I have to be careful because in the past it has been my wife. So
That's awesome.
so I have to be very
Uh,
careful, just in case,
uh,
just in case. Um, but
oh, that's hilarious. All right, brother. I will catch you later.
Everybody have a great night.